Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Northwest Tour, presented by Joe's Racing here on 3Y TV. I'm Peter Short, and I'm joined in the booth here tonight with Greg Ranson. Greg, welcome back to the 3Y TV booth. It's the first time you have been in the booth this season for the Northwest Tour, but we got a really interesting racetrack here tonight at Rockingham Speedway. We got the B main lined up for all of us here, but Greg, what are your thoughts about the Rock?
The Rock is one of the most treasured tracks in the country, and a lot of people are pining for this racetrack to return to the NASCAR schedule, and the Northwest Tour decided to capitalize on that. They said, hey, we are going to go to the Rock today, and here we go. Twin main events on tonight, but we're getting started with the B main, which is coming up right now.
6 drivers will advance from this B main into the A main. As I'm looking through the field. We already had a car near the back of the field. Owen Rudick got some damage when he hit the wall here under pacing. Looks like he might have been warming up his tires a little bit too treacherously. And already the racetrack is looking pretty slick already under pacing. I know that's something we're going to be talking about quite a bit here tonight, Greg, because this racetrack is pretty darn treacherous, but we'll see the Mustang pace car head down to pit road, and Kyle Lahr is already on the loud pedal on that number 22 machine. A huge jump up at the front. That's exactly what he wants to get here. 50 laps between this B main and the A main. 6 drivers advance, like we said, and already this field's starting to spread out, Greg.
And Joshua Hart did not go on that initial start. That was part of what led to the big start from Kyle Lahr. As he jumps out, he's going to lead lap 1. Andy Fuller, I want to give a big shout to Andy Fuller for giving me the new PC. He's up in second right now as he gets around Josh Hart, but it is all Kyle Lahr, the winner of the season opener, putting a stamp on an opening here in the Rock.
Oh, we already have a caution. There's a car around in turn number 1 and 2. It's the number 41 of Owen Rudick. We mentioned under pacing he had some issues with the outside wall, but looks like he's had some more issues here in turn number 1 and 2. Let's see what happened here on the 3Y TV replay going into turn number 1 and 2. Washed up the racetrack there. Got into the side of the number 53 machine. That is Jade Williams. And Jade Williams all of a sudden getting quite a bit of damage from this one, but unfortunately for Owen, he went around there in turn number 1 and 2, and that is definitely not the start that that number 41 machine is looking for. Looks like also the 55 there, Alejandro Mendoza, getting a piece of that accident as well. So already issues here in the B main. Kyle Lahr so far leading every single lap. But I'll tell you what, this is going to be a very interesting race. 50 laps, they're unable to change tires, and that will make things very, very slick for these drivers. In fact, both here in the B main and the A main, they are unable to change tires. So it will make for a very interesting race. I'll tell you what, I've raced here at Rockingham many, many times, and you want fresh tires just about every time you get the opportunity to do so. But these guys can't. It's in the rule books that they're not allowed to take tires. And so for that man right there, that 22, Kyle Lahr, if he wants to win this B main and make it into the A main, he's going to have to save those 4 Goodyear Eagles. And if you're drivers like Josh Hart, Andy Fuller, Marquis Smith, Jason Templeton, and Gary LaViolette in the top 6 right now, you're going to want to save your tires to see if maybe you can track down Kyle Lahr as this goes on, Greg.
And definitely you're going to want to keep your eyes on that 22 car, because he has been one of the top guys in the Northwest Tour this season, picking up the win at the USA International Raceway in the season opener and following it up with a second at South Boston. So a chance for these B main drivers to really get a grip on where they're at with the guy who has been up at the top, Kyle Lahr, up at the front right now early, as we are getting set to try to restart. We'll see if the lights go out on the pace car. They do not, so it'll be at least another lap. But it's just a chance for some of these guys in the B main who don't really have a lot of experience. A lot of rookies in this B main.
Yeah, definitely. It's an interesting field, and there's a lot of people in this field with different levels, different skill levels. Throughout this field, at least on the iRacing service. And Greg, you know this as good as anyone, that a lot of these people in this field are either drivers or crewmen from the Northwest racetracks in the Northwest of the United States. So these drivers out here, they know how to get the job done in real life, but transitioning over to the iRacing service can be a completely different story.
And we saw that last year as well. And you said it, these guys face a big transition when they're used to driving the full-size actual race cars out there. They can win every race out there, but it's entirely different on here. And we're seeing that as a couple of guys who have won a lot of championships in their career near the back of this B main. Yes, it is still early, but that just goes to prove your point that this is a big adjustment period for these drivers to try to get this iRacing figured out, especially still in the early stages and at a rough racetrack like this. But Peter, the lights are out on the pace car, so we'll be set to be back racing momentarily.
Yeah, we will be back to green flag here in one lap, and so far Kyle Lahr has led every lap, and it'll be interesting to see how that Droz Racing Products machine can hold on to this lead or not as this race continues to go on. Currently, all but one driver is on the lead lap. Owen Rudick is one lap down, so 18 cars on the lead lap once we go back to green flag racing. And that number 41 machine is having a little bit of connection issues there. I wonder if that factored into that first accident that happened here around this racetrack. Looked like there might have been a little bit of netcode involved, but I think there was going to be contact nonetheless. But here comes the Mustang pace car back onto pit road, and we're going to get set to go back to green flag racing. That number 22 already on the loud pedal, Josh Hart, not able to keep up with the back end of Kyle Lahr. And Greg, another fantastic restart for that 22.
And we saw that out of the two of Lahr all year last year and throughout the first couple of weeks of this season. You're on board with race leader Kyle Lahr. Actually, no, you're on board with second place Joshua Hart, sorry, as I saw the 16 of Andy Fuller, who was up in second at one point, but didn't realize that the 95 had gotten around him. But Kyle Lahr continues to lead as we look at second place Josh Hart. There's third place Andy Fuller, and once again, want to give him a big shout out because he's the one who built me this new computer, and we didn't get, or wasn't ready for the first couple races, but man, was it worth the wait because this thing is awesome, and I love the fact that I'm back here in the tower with you guys. And we got problems.
Sorry to cut you off, Greg.
Yeah,
there is
DJ
problems
Masters.
in turn number 3. Yeah, 2 cars in the wall, and we got one facing backwards. That's the number 3 of Daniel Masters, and I saw it happen. And sorry to cut in there, but I think it might have happened with Brian Lambert. Yes, there was contact between the 3 and the 57 machine. And unfortunately for Daniel, he got the bad end of that stick, ends up turned around at the outside wall.
That's just a tough break, but that's also a product of racing here at the Rock because this is technically a short track, so it can get a little bit free out there on the replay. We're taking one more look at it, this from the blimp cam. Lambert dives down. Masters throws the block and just gets clipped and sent up into the wall. Brian Payne getting a piece of it as well. Good job by everyone else there to avoid it. Who is that slammed on the brakes there and just squeaked? Tell the number on that one.
Yeah, definitely a couple of cars just narrowly avoiding that one. Very impressive to see. I think that was Joshua Beal who got on the binders and was able to get that thing slowed down to avoid any further contact in the 112 machine. But at least for Kyle Lahr, he's still up front here. And interestingly enough, Greg, in both B mains that we have seen so far this year, in fact, all 3 B mains that we've seen so far this year, I believe the leader has led every single lap. So we've yet to see a pass for the lead in a B main in the Northwest Tour this year. As I think really, if you're up there in the top 6 and you're fast enough to get into the A main, there's no real reason pushing it. You know, there's more to lose than there is to gain. You just got to get into the A main. You just got to get into the show. And I think they're all pretty kind and courteous up at the front, but I know they all do want to win.
And that was a trend we saw last year. Also, a lot of times we had the same situation. B main saw someone go wire to wire, but it was a lot more racier in the A main. But like you mentioned, the top 6, if you're locked in up about 4th or higher, you're like, yeah, I've got a little bit of a cushion. I can kind of just ride out, use it as a practice session. But when you're in 5th, 6th, you're on the bubble of falling out of that transfer spot, that's when you got to really be going because anything can happen at any given time in the sport of auto racing, and sim racing is no different. Anything can go wrong at any given moment, and suddenly you're on the outside looking in. So I think if you're in the top 4, you can take it a little bit easier, but if you're in 5th or 6th, you've got to go all out to at least try to get up into that cushion that we're talking about with the top 4.
I do want to make mention that Daniel Masters stayed on pit road in that number 3 machine. I believe he has lost a lap. We'll have to keep you updated on whether or not that is true. But that number 3 machine definitely receiving quite a bit of damage from that last accident. Owen Rudick got the lucky dog back on the lead lap, but we see pace car lights still on that Ford Mustang pace car. And do want to make mention that they're not Goodyear tires, they're Hoosier tires on these super lates. So sorry about that, Hoosier. I know you do a great job in supporting basically all of grassroots motorsport, and you know, more so a better job than likes of Goodyear and that sort of thing. So got to give credit to Hoosier for that. You know, I know a lot of race car drivers out there are very thankful for the tires that Hoosier put together, and Hoosier do put together a fantastic tire for a lot of people to race on each and every week.
And Hoosier has been such a great partner of racing in the Northwest as a whole. We only have one track that doesn't run Hoosier in the Northwest, so Hoosier has just been such a great partner for us in the Northwest, and it's awesome that they also are willing to support something like iRacing, because it shows just how much they truly do care about the racing community. Hoosier has been an amazing, amazing part of racing for us for a long time, and we hope that continues for.
Absolutely. Kyle Lahr is up there right by the wall because the green flag is about to come out. Man, almost scraping the wall as he slams the pedal to the floor, and that number 22 machine shoots out like a cannon once again. Josh Hart right behind him, already about 10 car lengths back. Andy Fuller still in 3rd, Marquis Smith in 4th, and then you find Jason Templeton and Gary LaViolette. Already the field starting to spread out just a little bit from about 6th place on back. It's interesting to see about a 10-car gap between the 6th place car, Gary LaViolette, and Josh Robinson. We'll have to see how that evolves. But we have a side-by-side battle now for the 3rd spot brewing between Marquis Smith and Andy Fuller. Fuller goes way high in turn number 1 and 2. Give that spot to the number 10 machine.
What a pass by Smith in the 10 as he works his way around Fuller, who just washed up the track. And we've actually seen here at Rockingham, especially right here off turn number 4 where they are right now, the high side seems to be the preferred spot as we have a caution as one car around.
Yeah, that'd be the number 3 of Daniel Masters and the 55 Alejandro Mendoza. They look like they made contact there on the back stretch, Greg, and there's a lot of bumps on that back stretch. And I wonder if that just kind of got those two cars together as they hopped their way over those bumps. But definitely a little bit of fender banging that led to that one.
Oh, looked like the 55 Mendoza might have come down on Masters a little bit as Masters got to the inside there. From that angle, it looked like. We'll take another look at it. Here from the blimp, there you see him right there in the center of the screen. Mendoza up front. Here comes Masters, and yeah, Mendoza kind of just down just a little bit right as Masters is there, and they both eat the wall. And unfortunately for Masters, definitely showing that his night at Rockingham not the way he wants.
Absolutely, definitely not the night that he wants, but we're going to step away here for just a brief moment on 3Wide TV, but we'll be right back with all the action.
Peter, go ahead and lead it back.
All right, and we're back. I'm leading you back in. Peter Short and Greg Rentz is here in the booth with me. And Greg, you were just mentioning when this caution flag came out that the high line is a great way to make a pass around this racetrack. We've seen that actually the past few weeks here in the Northwest Tour on 3-Wide TV, that especially on the long run, that high line starts to come in. But what is it about that high line on racetracks like this that allow you to make that pass?
I think it's more the level of banking that you have. You can carry the throttle more through the banking, and the higher you are, the more you can carry the throttle as well. And with this track, you might even see more grip up there. It's been so long since there's been a race at this racetrack. I mean, I think the trucks paid a couple of visits there at the start of the decade, but it's been so long since we've seen consistent racing that it's hard to really remember how it was unless you go back and watch old racing. But you can remember watching racing at Rockingham in the past that a lot of Cup cars that were the main cars that ran here, they would run the top as the race progressed. So I think with the tire wear and the way that it wears off, I think we'll see more and more drivers transitioning to the top as it goes. And obviously Kyle Lahr has done his homework because he has been running the top since the get-go, and it's paying dividends on those starts.
Yeah, Kyle Lahr definitely trying to prevent anyone from passing him before the start-finish line, and that number 20 machine as he gets a little bit slideways there as he tries to figure out exactly what he's got on these restart, Gregs, because once you've worn out these Hoosier tires just a little bit, it makes restarts really, really treacherous. And I think what you saw there was that number 22 machine just losing traction just a little bit. He's trying to figure out what he can and can't do on this restart. But it'll be interesting to see if we can go on board with the number 22 for just one lap around this place, because it is an absolute roller coaster ride. I know a lot of people liken Dover International Raceway to a roller coaster, but I don't think it's as much of a roller coaster as this place, just because there are so many bumps around this racetrack. I mean, watch him up here on the High Line. You can just see the attitude of that race car just as it hits those bumps all the way around. And you can see the driver there working the wheel, and we'll see it once we go back to green flag racing. And there is the green flag. You see him giving that wheel just a little bit of input as those wheels start to scream. Going to the start-finish line, you see the bumps going through turn number 1 and 2 right down there in the yellow line. That's exactly where you want to be down there. And then, of course, you go down Thunder Alley. You see all those bumps that I was talking about not too long ago, and then you dive it off into turn number 3 and 4. And usually you want to be right down there on the yellow line in 3 and 4. There's a lot of grip down there here in the iRacing version of the racetrack, at least early on in the run. But watch this. He's running a little bit different line through turn number 1 and 2. He's definitely entering a little bit higher to hit a late apex, as you can see the brake rotor there going around the corner. But it's going to be interesting to see the number 22 of Kyle Lahr. It's kind of late apexing these corners, Greg, and I think he's doing so just to straighten up the exit off these corners, because he knows that those tires are going to wear, and late apexing the corner is one of the best ways to save your rear tires, and that will be paramount as this B-main goes on.
And Kyle Lahr knows about saving tires, because we've seen it time and time again as he just picks his way through the field in this series. As we look around, we see some other battles going on. It's the 57 of Lambert. This is the battle for the transfer spot right now. Lambert in the 57 and the 2 of Gary LaViolette. So this is the battle for the transfer spot right now, because we're taking top 6 and Lambert gets inside. He will get it. So if the race were to end right now, there's still 29 laps to go in this B main, but if the race were to end now, Lambert would have just taken the final transfer spot away from LaViolette. As we try to work our way through, as now you see the 47 of Josh Robinson also closing in on LaViolette. And look at what happens when the 57 of Lambert is able to pull away, because of that battle that's going on for the 7th spot. Now Lambert's able to put some distance between himself, and he can kind of ride for a little bit, but he still has to be careful, because if Robinson can get around, or if LaViolette can find something, he'll be right back there before you know it.
Yeah, Marquis Smith and the number 10 machines also worked his way up into the 2nd. Allie Fullers stayed in 3rd at the expense of Joshua Hart. Joshua Hart now falling back a little bit, as he has now fallen victim to Jason Templeton. Templeton now up into the 4th position, and moved Joshua Hart back into 5th, and he's going to come under fire pretty quickly by Brian Lambert if he's not careful, as Josh Robinson and Gary LaViolette go wheel to wheel in turn number 1 and 2. The 47 and the 2 side by side going down Thunder Alley.
47 making them move for the 7th spot. Battle behind them as well.
Oh, contact the 74 car, excuse me, went way up the racetrack there. Fantastic save. I thought that was going to be a caution flag. As let's see this. I think he got a little bit of help from the 112 machine, Joshua Beal. There, a little bit of nudge there. And that 74, fantastic save. Got off the racing surface. No caution here at Rockingham.
Excellent save by Brian Payne there in turn number 3 and 4 as we continue to work our way through. You're watching a battle right now for the, this is for the 8th spot as Casey Garber gets to the inside of Violet. Garber with kind of a Jeff Gordon feel to his number 96 car, 3-time mini stock champion.
Yeah, and that's not what Gary LaViolette wanted. Remember, he was in 6th just a few laps ago, so that number 2 machine is bleeding positions right now.
Violet continues to fall back as we keep our eyes on him.
Yeah, and a little bit further up, there's a battle for the 5th position between Joshua Hart and Brian Lambert. Lambert in that number 57 machine. Remember, he was outside looking in not too long ago, and now he slid his way up into the top 5. Jason Templeton's also caught Andy Fuller. This is a battle for the 3rd position up here, and the number 39 machine just a little bit easier on entry, getting the power down a little bit sooner through the center of the corner. That number 39 is on rails right now, as is Kyle Lahr. Lahr is currently out to a pretty significant race lead, just over a second over the number 10 machine. But this number 39 machine definitely showing some pace.
Battle for the transfer spot breaks out as well, as the 47 of Robinson is to the inside of Joshua Hart.
Oh, you can see Hart really loose there coming out of turn number 2. That number 95 is not handling well, and just like the 2 of LaViolette, he is now bleeding positions now all the way back into the 7th position as Casey Garber gets around.
Garber gets around Hart as well, and now we're starting to see something through with Casey Garber. Can he race his way up into the transfers as he's closing in now on Robinson? And something must have happened because Lambert had gotten around Templeton. Or no, sorry, lost track of my battles there, but here comes transfer spot. Casey Garber to the inside of Josh Robinson. Lahr ahead, and Garber clears Robinson through 1 and 2. As they go down Thunder Alley, Casey Garber is in the transfer spot.
Yeah, and here comes Joshua Hart looking back underneath Josh Robinson. Not able to do anything just yet. Back up in front, Templeton has moved his way up into the 3rd position. Andy Fuller slid back into 4th, so all of a sudden, Greg, we're starting to see some comers and goers in this race, and I'm not surprised with the amount of tire wear that these drivers are experiencing here. There are some very, very loose race cars. Let's see if we can go on board with the number 95 machine, Joshua Hart, see if we can see his wheel inputs, because that number 95 machine is definitely not driving all too well. Let's see if we can dial up that camera on that machine. Here we go, going off into turn number 1 here. Pretty smooth on entry, but you see he's just kind of sawing at that wheel just a little bit. Ooh, you can see a little bit of steering back off to the right. Definitely that car is oversteering, is loose up off the corner. You can just see it's kind of dancing around the racetrack. Oh, into the wall. Is that number 95?
That was started with the 47 bobbled in front of him, and he checked up to try to do it. I was riding on board with the cockpit cam on the 95, and the 47 bobbled just a little bit right in front of him, and he had to deck up to try not to dodge it and run into him, and he hit the wall, and that's a tough break for Josh Hart, who started 2nd in this B-main.
Oh, the 47, Josh Robinson, also out of control in the front straight. He's in the 7th position. He actually almost did what the number 95 did a lap ago, but he was able to save it. These cars are absolutely wicked out there on the racetrack right now. Kyle Lahr up at the front is making it look easy. Templeton has moved his way up into the 2nd position in the number 39 machine. Can Templeton run down Kyle Lahr? Well, according to my live timing and scoring, that number 39 is not only the fastest race car out there on the racetrack, but over the last 5 laps, he's about 2/10 of a second faster than Kyle. So that would put him definitely on the back bumper of that number 22 machine before the checkered flag falls here.
Got 13 laps to do it off turn number 4. Templeton is much faster than Kyle Lahr.
Christopher
13
Heim,
to go.
Christopher Heim in the number 51 machine. He's worked his way up into the 8th position. In fact, he's closed in on Josh Robinson here in the 47. The 47 is wicked loose coming out of the corner, as is Christopher Heim. And man, these cars are fishtailing all over the racetrack. Remember, this is only a 50-lap B made. Oh, the 95 hard in the inside wall. We're under caution here at Rockingham.
That was a hard hit for Josh Hart, and that is not what Kyle Lahr wanted to see, because I was still watching the battle for the lead, and Templeton was coming in a hurry, but there you see it, and that collected quite a few cars up there in turn number 3.
Yeah, the number 53, Jade Williams, and the 911 of Adam Holm as well. This is them aboard with Jade, and you see that that number 53 just didn't quite figure out where the number 95 machine was going to go, and unfortunately made contact. And now Joshua Hart is off the racetrack and on pit road. I think that will be Joshua Hart's night here at Rockingham. Definitely a tough break, but we saw that number 95 machine was absolutely out of control. And I'll tell you what, Greg, these drivers out here, if I've learned anything from my career in sim racing, especially in iRacing, when you get your rear tires hot, when you lose your rear tires, if you burn your rear tires out, it is a snowballing effect, because you will continue to spin those rear tires, you'll get loose, which inevitably causes those rear tires to get hotter, wears them out more, and all of a sudden, there's no coming back from it. There's no way to recover. And that's why it's been interesting to see drivers like Kyle Lahr and now Jason Templeton with his charge to the front. They've been able to save those rear tires. You don't see them sliding up off these corners, but it will be paramount in the A-main to make sure that you're not only saving your front tires, but you're saving your rear tires. It's just, we've seen it a couple times here tonight, that this is starting to catch people out. And I was just about to say, this B-main's only 50 laps. The A-main's 75, and they can't change tires in the A-main either. So definitely going to be an interesting one here tonight.
I'm wondering if Kyle Lahr used up too much of his stuff there in the early stages when he was running away with it, because Templeton was coming in a hurry before that caution, and now we're set back up. That's my concern with Kyle Lahr right now in that 22, is did he use up too much of his stuff too early in that B main? Because the snowball effect that you mentioned, not only can that affect you in the handle of your car, if you get stuck on the outside per se and you get a freight train happen, that can snowball you all the way out of the A main if you're not careful.
Yeah, absolutely. That is, I've seen that happen more often, or multiple times, I should say, both here in the NorthWest Tour. I mean, we've seen that at some of the short tracks we've been to this year, but I've seen it. It's happened to me on certain racetracks. You just get shuffled out of the groove, but nonetheless, the pace car light's still on the Mustang pace car. We've highlighted Jason Templeton's run to the front. Marquis Smith started in the 4th position, now running 3rd. Andy Fuller started 3rd, now running in 4th. Brandon Lambert, remember that number 57 machine was involved in one of our earlier accidents, got a crumpled in front end, but Lambert's been able to recover very nicely. And remember, started in the 13th position tonight. Casey Garber in the 6th position, started in 16th. So those are two drivers who have done a fantastic job of working their way through the field. And what about Christopher Heim? Currently in the 8th position, 2 spots out of the transfer position. But that number 51 machine has gained 6 spots since the start of this one. So that number 51 might be making some noise. And now we're going to have a shootout here to the end, Greg, to determine which one of these drivers, 6 of them in total, will be going to the A-main.
It's going to be a heck of a show as the lights are out on the pace cars. So we're getting set for a shootout here at the Rock. And this is just the B main. This isn't even the A main. This is to determine the guys who get into the A main. So shootout for the final 6 spots. And don't forget, we also have the 2 provisionals as well from this main event. But these guys don't want to take a provisional. They want to lock themselves in by virtue of transferring in from the B main. And Kyle Lahr is just a handful of laps away from doing that. However, how much does he have left on his tires? Did Templeton pick the right time to go? And did this caution save Kyle Lahr at all? Or can Marquis Smith or Andy Fuller surprise anyone and make a late run for it? We're going to find out right now.
We will find out as that Ford Mustang pace car will dive down onto pit road. There's the hard left turn. Races in the hand of the 22 machine. And Lara all of a sudden gets really sideways there, getting on the throttle. Able to woe it up and keep that number 22 pointed in the correct direction. But Kyle Lahr heads his way off into turn number 1 and 2. Jason Templeton right behind Marquis Smith. Slideways coming out of turn number 2. And Andy Fuller now right behind him in 4th. Really, there's a pretty big gap between Brandon Lambert, Casey Garber, and Christopher Heim. Heim has worked his way up into the 7th position here as Josh Robinson in the number 47, the big loser on this restart. He lost 3 positions back to the 10th position. Will we be able to see...
Kyle Lahr, sorry to cut you off, but Kyle Lahr got bobbled big off of turn number 2, and Templeton is right to the bumper as we are in the closing stages of this one. Here comes Templeton. He has picked his moment, and it is now. And don't look now, Marquis Smith is here as well in the 10. 3 cars, you can throw a blanket under him in the closing stages.
Yeah, this is definitely a good run to the finish up at the front. Marquis Smith, you're right on board with him. Lost a little bit of ground there through the center of 1 and 2. Gained it back coming out of 2. All the way down the backstretch, Thunder Alley they call it, because let me tell you, those race cars jumping down there over all those bumps, pretty exciting. But we'll see what Templeton can do. Unable to do anything just yet, as we now have 4 laps to go.
Kyle Lahr continues to lead, and he pulled a little bit of a gap between himself and Templeton that time. Down Thunder Alley they go. Kyle Lahr has settled it down off turn number 2 the last couple of times, but we will see if Templeton can get a run. Here he comes creeping on the high side. We've seen that earlier. Marquis Smith also creeping high, but he got a little bit loose, and they will break away. The top 2 will as we reach the closing stages. Lahr, Templeton, nose to tail right now, and here comes Templeton to the inside now as Lahr washed up a little bit, man. Lahr with a bobble off turn 2. He hangs on to it and continues leading it down, but we will go into turn number 3. Closing stages in the B main, and Templeton is there.
Yeah, and I don't know how much you want to risk it. If I'm Kyle Lahr, you know, you could drop back a couple positions, still make it into the A main, but do you want to come home with this victory in the B main? There's only 2 laps to go to determine. Look all the way down below the yellow line coming out of turn number 2, and Templeton has a little bit of slip up. We're side by side for the 2nd position as Marquis Smith goes around the outside in the 10 machine. There you see Marquis Smith got a fantastic run coming out of turn number 2. Move the number 10 machine up into the 2nd position. White flag in the air.
Final lap around the Rockingham Speedway for this B main, and Marquis Smith has moved into 2nd, and that is exactly what Kyle Lahr needed, because down Thunder Alley for the final time through turns 3 and 4, it's going to be the 22. He won at USA. Oh, he bobbled. Here comes Marquis Smith. Smith, I thought too soon. Here comes Marquis Smith to the inside, down to the wire. Lahr holds on.
Wow, you almost spoke a little bit too soon, but what a fantastic race to the end there. Lahr able to hold on, Greg. If that's any indication of what we're going to see in the A main, we're in for a treat here tonight at Rockingham Speedway. These drivers of the NorthWest Tour putting on a treat in the B main. We got an extra 25 laps in the A main times 2. It's a double header here tonight, and really, it's like a triple header with that finish in the B main. What a great race.
What an incredible battle. Kyle Lahr, Marquis Smith putting on a show at the end, and I gotta tell you, if I'm in the gambling game, I like what I saw out of that 10 car there in the closing stages to make that run, not just to get past Templeton, but also get that run on Kyle Lahr. One more lap, I think Marquis Smith would have had him. I think that 10 car is going to be one to watch coming from the rear of the field for the A main.
Yeah, remember that the drivers who do transfer through from this B main will be starting in the 17th through, I believe, the 22nd position. So those 6 spots. So they will be starting the A main at the rear. We had 16 drivers qualify for the A main through qualifying, which was just a little while ago prior to the B main. 6 drivers move in from this race, and then we do have 2 provisionals, and those 2 provisionals are the 2 highest placed drivers from last season's Northwest Tour Series points. So that is definitely going to be interesting. We'll see if we can dial up some of these drivers to chat with them after a very, very eventful B main. Let's see who we can possibly talk to. Greg, anyone that you want to kind of grab and pull up here in the 3-wide TV booth? Well, let's just see if we can go to commercial real quick. We'll sort it out. We'll sort out who we want to talk to, but we'll definitely have some interviews lined up for you when we come back from this quick commercial here on 3-wide TV. All right, everyone, we're welcome back to 3-wide TV for the Northwest Tour presented by Joe's Racing Products. We just had the B main, an absolute crazy finish to a B main, and we're going to talk to the top 3 finishers. Let's talk to the number 39 of Jason Templeton. Jason Templeton, Peter Short here in the 3-wide TV booth. You got a copy? Well, sounds like you might have a copy. Let's try this one more time. Jason Templeton, Peter Short here in the 3-wide TV booth. You got a copy?
Yeah, I got you. How's it going?
Well, man, you guys put on an absolute show there at the end, so it's going pretty good up here in the booth, having a fantastic time. But that number 39 machine didn't look too happy. Looked like none of the cars were happy at the end of that 50-lap run. Explain what it was like from the driver's seat.
Yeah, once you get about 30 laps on these tires, it starts getting really slick, especially on those restarts. It's going to be interesting coming out of turn 2. That's where it really wants to slide.
Yeah, it was interesting to see that you were closing in on the 22 of Lahr there before we had that caution flag. Were you hoping to see that go green all the way to the end?
Oh yeah, of course. I was going to try and mow him down, but after that I just wanted to stay in the top 6 and play it safe.
Yeah, interesting strategy. Of course, you know, we do have the dual 75 lap races coming up. What are your strategy to get from the back to the front in those races?
I'm just going to try and save my tires and be smart on the passes and just pass them when the opportunity comes up.
All right. Well, best of luck in the A main. That number 39 does transfer. And Jason, maybe you'll be able to come home with the top 3 in the A main.
Yeah, that'd be nice. Thank you.
All right. Well, see more of Jason Templeton in the A main here in just a brief moment. Well, let's see if we can dial up your second place finisher, the number 10 machine of Marquis Smith. Marquis Smith, this is Peter Short here in the 3-wide TV booth. You got a copy?
Yes, sir, I do.
All right, man. Fantastic race. We just talked to Jason in the number 39 machine, and he says after about 30 laps, it gets absolutely chaotic on those tires. What was your experience of that number 10 machine?
Oh, yeah. Definitely just loose everywhere, but I don't know if it's so much the tire as it is the track as well. I mean, tire fall off is definitely a factor, but you're bottoming out 3-4 times through 3 and 4, just fighting the car the entire way. So I can definitely agree with that.
Yeah, definitely those bumps around this are absolutely crazy. It was fantastic to watch that race. What was going through your head when the caution flag flew there with about 10 laps to go?
I was just thinking, please don't wheel spin and put yourself in the wall. It feels good to finally transfer through to the A main. I had a rough go at the first week and then missed the second, so it feels good to make the A main here.
Yeah, absolutely. Probably played it safe a little bit on that last restart, but good job getting into the A main. Before we let you go, you got any shout-outs for us?
I want to give a shout out to Mahan Designs, designed the car, it looks awesome. My team, MT2 Esports, and any of the brand ambassadors at 91 and up who might happen to be watching and cheering me on.
All right. Well, best of luck in the A main. That number 10 machine does transfer into the A main. Dual 75 laps here for you, Marquise. Best of luck.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
All right. I think we have one more interview lined up for you. That is the number 22 machine of Kyle Lahr. Kyle Lahr, Peter Short, 3-wide TV booth. You got a copy?
Yeah, I got a copy.
Well, third week in a row that we get to talk to you, but this time transferring from the B main into the A main. Of course, getting the win 2 weeks ago at USA, finishing runner-up last week at Sobo, but tonight not unable to qualify in the top 16. What was your thought going into the B main, and how was that number 22 driving for you tonight?
I went in the main just having the mindset just finishing top 6 is all I cared. I don't care if I would have won it or not. All I cared was just finishing top 6, and man, and I just hold on.
All right, so maybe a little bit of technical difficulties on that number 22 machine, but definitely a fantastic run for Kyle Lahr here tonight. One of the stars so far this season in the NorthWest Tour, but definitely that number 22 machine transferring into the A main. Third week in a row, we'll see Lahr in the A main, and Kyle, if you're back, if everything's good on your end, I just want to hear about what's your strategy to get from the back to the front.
Honestly, I'm just gonna take it easy again. Tires go out really quick after 20 laps, and I was just really fighting a loose car right there. So as long as I finish top 15 and make it to the second race, that's all I'm aiming for, to be honest.
All right. Well, Kyle, before I let you go, you got any shout-outs for us?
Joe's Racing Product, my mom, dad, fiance, and everybody else that supports me.
All right. Well, best of luck, Kyle, in the A main. We'll let you get back to it, and we'll see if we can talk to you after the race.
Thank you, guys.
All right, Greg. That is your top 3 from the B main, and it was an absolute fantastic race, and I expect to see more of the same in the A main.
Absolutely. I'm really looking forward to this A main because we saw those cars all kinds of wicked loose at the end, and that was only 50 laps. These two main events are going to be 75 laps each. So we're taking what we just saw in that B main, and we're tacking on an additional 25 laps twice. This is going to be an amazing couple of main events coming your way here shortly.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I'm sure all these drivers who are in the A main who didn't take part in the B main are, thinking about what happened, how loose these race cars were for everyone else. I'm sure that, some of them are probably a little bit hesitant, a little bit scared as to what they're going to get here for these 75 laps, because they looked like an absolute handful all the way around this racetrack.
This is racing at Rockingham right there, biting the car all the way around, making it, or you're just wrestling that car for the entire time. And 50 laps, you saw what happened. 75 laps with a bigger field. We can't even begin to preview what's going to happen. This is going to be an insane night here at Rockingham, and this first practice, or this first main event up next, it's just going to be wild. I can't wait to see what unfolds here for the next 75 laps times 3.
Yeah, it is a dual header here tonight, double header, 2 75 lap races, and really I think at the end of the night it is the average finish between these drivers I believe that gets them points. So you're going to want to finish well in both races. I mean, that sounds kind of silly. Of course you want to finish well in both races, but you kind of have to have the average finish in the back of your mind. So it'll be interesting to see if that factors into the way any of these drivers tackle this race here tonight. But we're now in the practice session for the A main. So some of these drivers who have not been on the racetrack for the last half hour, 45 minutes or so, back out there on the racetrack turning some lap times. And, you know, that is so important. They'll get to feel what the racetrack is like before we transition over into the race. Let's look at the current track temperature, because, ladies and gentlemen, this track right now is one of the hottest racetracks I have ever seen in the iRacing service. Look at that track temperature, 133 degrees Fahrenheit. Ladies and gentlemen, those Hoosier tires will be absolutely screaming after 5 laps with 133 degree track temp. That is absolutely crazy. But my oh my, Greg, I think Carlos Acosta, our producer, we got to give him a shout out. I think he's lined up the points for us. So tell us a little bit about how the points line up here going into tonight's race.
As you see, Kyle Lahr, the B-main winner, leading the points, and he just won the B-main, but he already has a win this season, as does Caden Anderson, who's second in points, just 12 back. And we see Travis Barnes, Ryan Gormley, and Casey Tillman rounding out the top 5. And I want to give a shout out to Casey Tillman because he was up in the NASCAR Wheel and All-American Series points chase for a while up in the state of Idaho, and he was leading it for a while, and he was actually in the mix for the national at first there. So he's up in the top 5 in points right now. Bardecker Jr. in the 6th spot. He won a street stock championship at Hermiston Raceway this year, just 1 point back of Casey Tillman. BJ Tidrick, Seth Frazier, and a tie for the 9th spot between Kyle Frank and Sean Breitzman.
Yeah, definitely an interesting kind of turn of events with Kyle Lahr, your points leader, having to transfer in from the B-main. And you know what? I'll tell you what, Greg. Even though he transferred into the A-main, he's kind of at a little bit of a disadvantage because of the passing points. Because he transfers in from the B-main, he's not eligible for those passing points like the drivers who might have qualified up near the front. So that is kind of put him at a slight disadvantage here coming over into the A-main, but at least he's here. He can score as many points as possible to try and retain that points lead after tonight's race.
But the good news for Kyle Lahr is, A, he gets fresh tires, he gets a fresh car, and B, he has 50 more laps on this surface than anyone else, so he has an idea of what this car is going to do on a long run. So those extra laps may benefit Kyle Lahr in the long run, especially with we've seen how he can get through traffic so smoothly over the years on short tracks. We'll see how he can do it on the long track here, as this is just over a mile here at Rockingham Speedway. So those guys who ran the B-main, they have an idea of what's going to happen with their cars on a longer run. Tack another 25 laps onto it, of course, but this should be fun to see these B-main guys and see how they take that knowledge of what their car did in that race a couple minutes ago and transfer it over to the same main.
And you know what I'm interested to see, Greg, is whether or not we have any drivers who elect to kind of creep their way around this racetrack. When I say creep, just kind of fall off the back of the field, save their tires, save both the front ones and the rear ones equally. Kind of expect to see a few caution flags here and there, and then maybe with 25 laps to go, if they get another caution flag, just put pedal to the metal and see if those saved tires allow them to move through the field. I'm sure for a few drivers in this field that might be a legitimate strategy to try and come away with a good finish, especially if you don't feel like you have the outright pace to contend for the win. I mean, we've seen some very, very fast here now, and the last place car in practice. So you know, there could be some interesting strategies in this one.
And you mentioned guys riding around and kind of hanging back and letting stuff happen. And another part of that strategy, there is 2 separate races. And a lot of times, especially in the NASCAR K&N Pro Series, when there's 2 races in one shot, a lot of drivers will tend to use that first one as a kind of a practice race and kind of just ride around, get some laps, and then go gung-ho in the second main. I don't know if you can really risk doing that as much in this because you're going off point for average finishing position, whereas NASCAR, it's 2 completely different races that just happen to be on the same day, similar to what we're going to see at Pocono with this doubleheader weekend going up next year in the Cup Series. But you might see a couple guys do that same strategy and kind of just use this first main as a test run and really go gung-ho in the second main. I think the second main event tonight is going to be the one that we really have to keep an eye on, because I think a lot of guys are going to use this first main event as kind of a lesson to see what they can do in the second main.
Yeah, without a doubt. Got to give a shout out to Ryan Gormley up at the second position in that number 44 machine. Been fast in all the sessions that we've had here tonight. Definitely showing some muscle on this 1 mile racetrack. And we've seen Gormley be pretty quick on the short tracks that we've been to so far this year as well. So Gormley putting in a fantastic show. There is that number 44 machine working his way through turn number 3 and 4. And right behind him is Christopher Heim, who I believe Heim was one of the drivers who made it in on the provisional. So we'll see that number 51 here in the A main as well. I think he came home 7th in that B main, 1 spot short of the outright transfer spot, but able to work his way in based off of last year's points. So good to see that number 51 machine here. And it will be interesting to see, like you kind of said, Greg, just how much these drivers from the B main can translate what they learned into this longer race, and especially in the aspect of saving tires, because they know it is going to get really, really slick out there.
For sure, and it's going to be so interesting to watch how these guys go for the first few laps and see if anyone uses that tire saving strategy at the start of the race and go for it in second half of the race, because you just know that these drivers were watching that B main and they saw what Marquis Smith was able to pull off there at the end, getting around Templeton and then going after Kyle Lahr, coming down to the wire. Lahr was able to hold on, but drivers that are in this race that were not in that B main, they took note of that, and they're going to transfer what they saw in that B main and transfer that to how they run this race here. So 2 totally different ways of learning what the track's going to do. You've got the guys who were out there and they felt what the track was going to do, but the other guys who were in this A main, the top 16, they saw what the track is going to do. So 2 totally different ways of learning this B main, and it's all about who can translate it the correct way here in this 75 lap first main event.
And let's see just how some of our transfer drivers are doing here in practice. Kyle Lahr currently 4th on the board. Jason Templeton currently in the 7th position. Casey Garber in 8th. Definitely a couple of those transfer drivers already in the top 10, taking what they learned, as the track temperature has already risen up to 137 degrees Fahrenheit. That is just super, super hot. I cannot remember seeing a track temperature that hot in all of my years in iRacing. And that will just add to how slick this racetrack is. It's very, very impressive to see that temperature out there on the racetrack, as the sim is set to mid-May. That's effectively when this simulation is running as of right now. You can kind of change when in the year you are in these races, but it seems like the NorthWest Tour sets mid-May, May 15th as their date, so that explains the super hot temperatures here around this place. As we watch the camera coming out of turn number 2, and you watch all these drivers blast down Thunder Alley. I can't remember who that was, but
that looked like Garrett Huffines in the 42. It looked like, I'm not sure.
It was Garrett Huffines, you are correct, and getting a little bit slideways coming out of the corner. We'll see that quite a bit. See BJ Tidrick leading a group We got one car coming off pit road. That's Josh Childress in that 77 machine.
And I'm going back to what you said a minute ago about the temperatures and all that. One thing I did notice, this is partly cloudy, 82 degrees air temp, but the track temp is 138. Can you imagine if there was no clouds and it was another 10 degrees outside? Can you imagine how hot this place would be?
I'm sure these drivers, it's their worst nightmare. If it was a lot hotter than it is. I mean, it's already extremely hot. And in fact, based on what I've seen here in practice, I've seen more loose cars after just a few laps in practice than I did in the B main even. So it's gonna, I think, even be slicker than it was then, and more paramount to save your tires for the 75 lap race, because like we said at the top of the show, you're not allowed to change your Hoosier tires. You have to keep them on your car the whole race. You can't come down pit road to change them. You can come down pit road to fix damage, but that's it. You're not allowed to change the tires. So these drivers will be absolutely screaming, and they won't be, well, I should say, they'll be very thankful to see the checkered flag once it finally drops, and they'll be able to change tires because this is a dual header race. They will be right back at it for another 75 laps around this joint once this first A main does end. They're at least getting a bit of practice time here, Greg, to try to somewhat acclimatize themselves to it.
And one guy that I've been watching through a majority of this practice session is the number 82 of Bart Hector Jr. He's actually running my paint scheme. This is actually my car that he's driving. Whenever I finally get my wheels set up, this is going to be my car that the 82 is driving. But he has a K&N win at this racetrack, National Series as it's called on here. But he does have a victory at this racetrack in the past, and he's running the Cascade Championship Wrestling colors tonight on the 82 Dodge Charger. Yeah, he even has my name on the car, on the roof. Yeah, he ran it in the season finale last year, and he just said, you know what, I'm just going to run it this year. But I've been watching him in practice, just kind of paying attention because of the fact that he does have that win at this racetrack in a K&N car in the past. So I'm curious if he's going to take what he knows from that win in the K&N car and transfer it over to the Super Late model. Granted, it does run much differently here than the K&N cars, as he's under pressure right now. I mean, you know, not really a whole lot of pressure because it's practice, but Caden Anderson, he's another guy who runs Cascade colors in his truck and his Xfinity car, NorthWest Racing Series. We're happy to have our Cascade Championship Wrestling logo on his car as well, so we are happy to see him get the win in South Boston for sure. But it's just so much fun seeing this racetrack, because this was a track that a lot of drivers were looking for to come or to add to the schedule in the offseason. When Seth and BJ and myself, we opened it up and we said, hey, what are some tracks that you guys want to see? This was almost unanimous. When we mentioned Rockingham was a possibility, almost everyone jumped and they were like, we want to be at this racetrack. And here it is tonight, Twin 75's. It's going to be huge for this Twin 75. This is a race that a lot of guys on this tour wanted, and they're getting it tonight.
Yeah, it's going to be a fantastic race. I know when I first saw the schedule for this season, I also circled this one as a race that I was looking forward to, because I personally love this racetrack. It has so much character, going over the bumps, really driving the race car over those bumps. I mean, you saw in the B main the drivers throwing the cars around, really playing with the wheel through the corner. It's just so much fun as a race car driver, especially when it is loose. I want to give a shout out to a couple of people in the chat. I want to give a shout out to Kathy Rose, Brandy Lahr, Josh W., as well as Dragon Zeron. And Dragon is asking, why did races stop at The Rock? Well, really the biggest issue with The Rock was its location. It's not really located anywhere close to any big city in the Carolinas, and that definitely dwindled the track attendance. They'd had 2 races per year, but because they had 2 races per year, it really affected their attendance. They weren't able to pack the track like some of the other racetracks were back in the early 2000s. And granted, probably the numbers that they were pulling then are comparable to what NASCAR is pulling now. But definitely that kind of led to the demise of the racetrack. They had a couple of races here once the track was somewhat revitalized. Like you said, Greg, early in the decade, probably about 10 years ago, if not a little bit longer ago than that. And its kind of revitalization never really stuck, unfortunately, and all of a sudden the track has gone vacant again. But that is kind of the current situation of Rockingham in real life, but we're about to line up for 75 laps around this place in the iRacing simulator, and I believe we're going to have your starting lineup for you. And Greg, why don't you take us through your top 10 here on the grid?
We are going to get things started with the number 80 of James Paulson, a two-time winner in the Tour last year. Both of those came in twin race formats, so he's one to keep your eye on. He'll roll off with Dylan Huffines to his outside. Josh Childress and Bart Hector Jr. make up row number 2, with BJ Tidrick, one of the main guys behind this series, and Chris Morang. Travis Barnes, Casey Tillman, Seth Frazier, and Garrett Huffines round out your top 10, Peter.
Yeah, in the 11th position, we'll find Nick Bellamy. Shane Quinn will roll off from 12th. Ryan Gormley will roll off 13th. Sean Britzman on the outside of row number 7. Travis McKinney will roll off from the 15th position, it does appear. Marquise Smith will roll off from 16th. Jason Templeton will start this race in 17th. Andy Fuller, 18th. Brian Lambert will start 19th. Casey Garber, 20th. Christopher Heim will roll off 21st. Daniel Masters was another driver to use a provisional. Will start from 22nd. And then we find Kyle Lahr and Caden Anderson. And remember, we haven't mentioned this here tonight, but your top 3 finishers from last week get an end of longest line at the start of this race, and so that's why you find the 22 of Kyle Lahr and the 37 of Caden Anderson starting shotgun on this 24-car field. 75 laps around the just over 1 mile Rockingham Speedway. Green flag in the air. James Paulson leads us to that green flag. Huge jump for that number 80 machine, but they're side by side right about for the 4th position or so. As I say that, they all start to iron themselves out down to that bottom line. And I think, Greg, what we'll see is some of these drivers up near the front just trying to ride around and save tires for a little bit.
Boy, what a start Dylan Huffines had as well. Dylan Huffines saying, I'm not saving any tires, because he's going for it as he tries to get after Paulson. Paulson will lead lap 1, and again, he knows how to get it done in this twin racing format. Has 2 wins on the Tour last year, both came in twin format. But here comes Dylan Huffines, who's still looking for that first win on the Tour. He gets the lead off turn number 2. Move Dylan Huffines to the lead, and he's bringing Bart Hector Jr. in the 82 car with him.
Yeah, very interesting to see a few players in this field that I was expecting to see move up towards the front. Sean Britzman, one of those drivers, starting to move back, and I think, Greg, we're starting to see those different strategies come into play early on. Certain drivers already trying to save tires, but you mentioned the 82 Bart Hector not trying to save tires as he's underneath the number 77 of Josh Childress. We saw him try to get that 2nd position, unable to do so for now, but now they're side by side for 4th. Here comes the 00. Chris Morang will take that 4th position as they head off into turn number 1. And now we got this battle a little bit further back, 8th position between the 8 of Travis Barnes and BJ Tidrick. And Tidrick will lose that position. Will stay in the 9th position for now, but definitely some different strategies here. And the other, contact a little bit further back. The 48 machine going back up the racetrack hard into the outside wall. The 48 of Travis McKinney, who was the fastest qualifier for this race. Lots of damage, and definitely not the way that 48 wanted to start this one.
Especially after setting fast time. That is a heartbreaker for Travis McKinney. Oh, some contact with, I couldn't tell who that was that got into the
Yeah, it was the number
48.
10 of Marquise Smith, I believe.
Oh, Marquise Smith, the guy that I was keeping my eye on from the main.
Yeah, it looks like the 48 got down there on the yellow line just a little bit, and that might have pushed him up the racetrack, and I think Marquise thought that he could pop his nose in there just a little bit when they were in front of him. Pushed it 3 wide, and I just don't think McKinney knew that car was down there, and unfortunately made a little bit of contact, and Travis McKinney's still out there in the racetrack. I expect him to come down pit road to get as much damage repaired as possible. But there's quite a bit of damage on that number 48 machine. Also, a little bit of damage on the front end of the 16 machine. Andy Fuller in that bright green machine that made contact with McKinney while McKinney was spinning. And there you see the 48 on pit road. Surprised the 16 didn't come down to fix any damage, but electing to stay out there on the track for right now.
Looking at the 16, he does have some pretty significant damage on of that car, so Andy Fuller, one of the guys who transferred his way into the B main, gonna have his work cut out for him, but we are having, as expected, an interesting start to this one. Dylan Huffman's leading the way right now here at the Rockingham as he was able to slingshot around Paulson early in that one. That 7 car looked very, very strong early in this one.
Yeah, currently your biggest mover in the field is Caden Anderson, last week's winner from South Boston. Daniel Masters has also gained 5 positions. Of course, they made it through that accident, so they've probably gained a few spots because of that. But beyond those drivers, Seth Frazier, the driver who's made the biggest amount of positions up in the top 10, Seth has gained 3 spots since the start of this race up into the 6th position in that number 32 machine. But we're doubling up here for the restart, Greg, as looks like Dylan Huffines will lead us back to green. Look at Bart Hector in that 82 machine. You said that's your car, your paint scheme on that number 82, so good to see it up there currently in the top 3. Well, hopefully Bart can keep it there for the remainder of this race, but we got a long way to go, 68 laps once we go back to green flag.
And real quick, I just want to give a shout out to the guy that painted that car. Mike Wood did a lot of the cars in this tour. He does amazing work. We had him sponsored in the last race, Mike Wood Race Designs. Shout out to him. He's been a huge supporter of the NorthWest Tour.
Absolutely. Speaking of the NorthWest Tour, the NorthWest Tour presented by Joe's Racing Products is about to go back to green flag racing. Dylan Huffines will lead us back as the flag man whips that green flag around. That number 7 machine clears his way off into turn number 1. Here comes the 82 of Bart Hector, working on the low side, getting around James Polson, and now they're side by side for the 3rd position between Meringue and Polson. And Meringue already starting to make some noise in this race. He started in the 6th position, now up into 3rd as he comes out of turn number 4. Yeah, that car definitely looking pretty fast. That 00 of Meringue, but here comes Polson coming back at him. That high line in 1 and 2 just hasn't quite come in yet, and you can see that 00 just inches ahead.
Now Josh Childress hits the inside of Paulson as well. New look as well for the 77 of Childress this year, along with the 00 of Chris Meringue. New number for Chris Meringue as well, and he's beginning to creep up now on Hector for the 2nd spot. Couple of Dodges going to war for the 2nd position right now, trying to track down the Chevy of Dylan Huffines, but right now Chris Meringue looks to be the strongest car on the racetrack as he's closing in on Hector. Here comes caution.
Caution
right as
out.
Meringue comes out, caution comes out.
Marquis Smith has gone around, and that number 10 machine, not the first time he's been involved in an accident here in the A main. We'll have to see. Ooh, maybe a little bit of contact there. Possibly some net code. Well, let's see if we can get a better angle of that one. But that was the number 96 machine of Casey Garber. Let's see what happened here from the helicopter cam going off into the corner. And
a little bit of contact.
Yeah,
just the hair.
Contact.
Just enough to send it around.
Luckily, though, for the number 10 machine, doesn't look like he got too much damage from that one. Just kind of skirted the outside wall just a little bit. Got into it with Christopher Heim in the 51, so I think Heim might have some damage. But we're going to sort everything out for you here on 3Y TV, but we're going to step away for just a brief moment for a quick commercial. We'll be right back on 3Y TV. All right, well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to 3Y TV for the Northwest Tour presented by Joe's Racing Product. You can see those pace lights still on that Ford Mustang pace car up there. I do want to highlight Caden Anderson has moved up into the 16th position, now plus 8 positions from where Caden started. Kyle Lahr up 6th position. Remember, Kyle Lahr was the winner of the B main. So far, both of those cars staying out of trouble. Want to give a few shout outs in the chat to Cooper Lanning and Kathy Rose. Kathy Rose saying go Seth out there on the racetrack, as well as One Type Customs. Williamson Kemmer Motorsports saying hi out there. So how's it going in the chat? Make sure to make those comments out there. We'll take a peek at those every once in a while. Cooper Lanning looks like he's rooting for the number 37 machine of Caden Anderson here tonight. Pretty cool to see that. But definitely so far, a couple of caution flags, a couple of drivers saving their tires, a couple of drivers moving their way to the front. Do you want to be the tortoise or the hare here at Rockingham Speedway? Only time will tell, as we have now just under 62 laps around this 1 mile racetrack, and a little bbit longer than 1 mile, but the cars are now doubling up for this restart. You see the number 7 machine of Dylan Huffines, your race leader. Let's reset the field for you before we go back to green flag racing. Dylan Huffines, your race leader, like I just said. Bart Hector Jr. 2nd, Chris Meringue 3rd, Josh Childress 4th, James Paulson 5th, Seth Frazier 6th, Travis Barnes 7th, Casey Tillman 8th, BJ Tidrick 9th, and Garrett Huffines rounding out your top 10. So we got 2 Huffines brothers in the top 10. We'll see how that continues to go on. I think this is the first A-main that both of those brothers have made so far this year. But Dylan Huffines so far leading the way over this 24-car field. Travis McKinney did come down pit road 2 laps down, trying to fix as much damage as possible for that number 48 machine, but it definitely didn't look like it was on pace that last green flag run. We'll see about this one, because the green flag is back in the air. Dylan Huffines, once again, fantastic restart for that Huffines Racing number 7. Bart Hector's going to slot in the 2nd position nice and neatly. Chris Meringue behind him. Pretty much all single file until around the 5th spot or so. James Paulson on the inside. Casey Tillman on the inside. In fact, Paulson didn't get a good restart. Seth Frazier has actually been able to move up into the 5th position, so he's up 4 spots from the start of the race. But that battle now for the 6th position held by Paulson and Casey Tillman is red hot.
Contact between Childress and Meringue's in the wall.
Oh, that's not full. It's everywhere.
And this is going to be a mess.
Oh, car still going around on the racetrack. Looks like the car is just having to come to a complete stop to try and avoid this one. But yeah, there was a little bit of contact up there, Greg, and that 00 hard look with the outside wall.
It just came down right in front of the field, and before we knew it, we had a melee.
Yeah, BJ Tidrick definitely unlucky with that one, getting caught up in it and turned into the outside wall, but I think Nick Bellamy just had nowhere to go, thought he was through it. Let's see this one from a little bit different angle. The 77 and the 00 headed off into turn number 1, and man, I don't know if that was a little bit of netcode, but they were definitely pretty close on entry into the corner.
From that angle, it looked netcode, so I don't know if we can catch one more angle and see if we can get a better look, but from that angle, that looked like there was a little bit of netcode going on there.
Yeah, I think there's a little bit of netcode. Those 2 cars were very, very close going off into the corner. They still had a couple of inches between them, I think, Greg, and that's just really unfortunate. That 00 hard contact with the outside wall.
I think the netcode was on the first one. The second, there was definitely contact, because Meringue actually had it kind of saved up a little bit at first, but he came right back down into the path of the 77. So I think if there was netcode, it was on the first one, but there was most definitely contact on the second tap there. And unfortunately, it catches a lot of quick cars caught up in that because the fast cars were right around there from qualifying because they were starting to make their way up there. So here we go. Rockingham just continues to be the wild card, and once again, we're under caution.
Yeah, let's see if we can go on board with the 22 of Kyle Lahr. Let's see if we can go back and see if we can get this one, because the 22 machine was absolutely unbelievable. It's going to take us maybe a little bit to dial up this replay, but it was not Days of Thunder, but I'll tell you what, there was cars spinning all the way around him, and he did not get a single piece of damage. There was a little bit of netcode, I'm going to say that now, but he threw on the brakes, and cars are still spinning. He had Britzman come right across his nose there, and just slam on those brakes right there at the end. No damage on that number 22 machine. Pretty darn impressive to get through that one. Also, a couple of other drivers a little bit further back not receiving damage, just getting on those binders, getting those cars basically pulled to a stop. And sometimes, you know what, Greg, that is the best way to get through one of these wrecks.
Absolutely, as you see one more look at it, just slamming on the brakes and just hoping and praying you hold on, and you do. Fortunately, the main problem there was not Moran coming across, it was Bellamy kind of slowly coming down right in front of the rest of the field. Peter, why don't you explain, because you know more about it than I do, explain to our viewers at home a little bit about what exactly netcode is.
So yeah, we got a question in the chat from Kathy Rose about what is netcode, and iRacing works in a very interesting way. It's fairly complicated, but you have data, of course, that you're pinging an iRacing server, and that iRacing server is then feeding information back to you. However, the iRacing client, i.e. the actual iRacing that you run on your desktop, on your side of things, does some fancy math. It actually does some interpolation in between these packets of data that get sent back and forth. So unfortunately, that level of interpolation isn't always the most accurate, especially if there is a hiccup somewhere in the world, in you know, the giant switches that control the internet. And so sometimes that interpolation just works against you. And so a car ends up being in a spot that it isn't in actuality in that spot. But one side of iRacing doesn't know. One computer doesn't know exactly, and so it's having to do some fancy math. And unfortunately, sometimes you can be on the bad end of that math. And until the internet is faster and servers are more reliable, that sort of thing, it's just something that we unfortunately have to deal with. And unfortunately, sometimes it just rears its head. Sometimes it works for you. Sometimes it works against you. It's really just it's like playing Russian roulette sometimes, unfortunately, for some of the drivers. But, you know, you can see at times physical gap between two cars, and then one car just all of a sudden ends up spinning. So just think of it like if you were trying to predict 10 minutes in the future from now where the cars outside on your street would be. Some of them would be in the right spot, they wouldn't move, and some of them would be obviously moved, and that's what your iRacing client tends to do, and it leads to that kind of contact. So kind of a lengthy explanation, but it just comes down to the fact that this is over the internet, and sometimes the internet doesn't quite work out.
Oh, and unfortunately, that was just one of those cases where netcode came into play, where the card was being registered as just a little bit further down on the racetrack than it was, and they registered that there was contact even though there wasn't, and the cars reacted as such as if there was contact.
Yeah, absolutely. Looks like we do have one car coming down pit road. We have had this caution flag extended a couple of times. Chris Meringue is currently on pit road in the 00, going to come down, get as much damage fixed as possible. We did see that 00 with a hard hit. Surprised that 00 is actually still running out there on the racetrack, to be honest. Travis McKinney, though, got one of his laps back. He's back to being one lap down. But Dylan Huffines is still your race leader up there at the front over Bart Hector Jr., Greg.
Dylan Huffman's leading the way. Bart Hector Jr. in second. How about Seth Frazier getting up to third in the 32 just by dodging these incidents and being able to keep his nose clean? He's up in the third position. Early leader James Paulson in the 80. Fourth, and Travis Barnes rounds out the top 5. But here we go, coming back to green flag. Huffines is going to get the lead as Barnes is on the outside of Paulson for that 4th spot right at the start. He's going to get it going into turn number 1.
Yeah, that was a very impressive restart for Travis Barnes. I think he actually had a little bit of wheel spin that shot him to the outside wall, but it worked for him as Paulson was leaving that outside door open. And that number 8 just shot the gap and has already moved up into the 4th position. There's quite a few car lengths, though, between him and Seth Frazier in the 32 machine, as Seth Frazier is going to set his sights on the cars in front of him. Look at this gaggle of cars, and look at Kyle Lahr in the 22, starting to make some noise already inside the top 10. Remember, he was your winner of your B main just a little while ago as we reached the 1/3 distance or so here in the first of 2 A mains.
Meanwhile, back up front, Huffines was feeling heat from Hector for a little bit, but now beginning to pull back away. Dylan Huffines looking for his first win in the iRacing.com Northwest Tour, brought to you by Joe's Racing Products. It's Huffines, Hector, Frazier, your top 3 right now. You've got 3 tracks in the Northwest represented in the top 3 right now. You've got Dylan Huffines, who represents Yakima Speedway, Jr., whose home track has become Hermiston, Oregon, and or Wenatchee Valley Super Oval, which is also the home track of Seth Frazier. So fun to see these Northwest tracks represented here in this iRacing group, as here comes Travis Barnes now really beginning to creep up on Frazier, but there's a good battle going on back there. Paulson and Lahr. Kyle Lahr, B-main winner. Here he comes.
Yeah, that number 22 machine will take the 6th position, but look at this whole side-by-side for the 2nd position going off into turn number 1. Ooh, Seth Frazier rolled out of it really early there on entry into turn number 1. He's going to come back at Bart Hector coming out of turn number 2. They're still side-by-side going down Thunder Alley. Off into turn 3 they go now, and that number 32 just digging down there on the bottom. This has actually allowed Dylan Huffines to scoot away quite significantly, but we have a caution once again on the racetrack. There's a couple cars gone around in turn number 3 and 4. One of those cars, Sean Britzman, and this man right here, Casey Tillman, in the number 92. Let's see what happened here. The 92 on the high side, and Britzman down there on the inside, and oh, not quite sure what happened there. Looks like the door was just closing. Someone else got involved there.
I think that looked like to me the 57 of Lambert was the other car involved, as he's right there in the mix of that. Take a look. And going down into turn number 3, yeah. 92 just comes down a little bit on Britzman, and unfortunately for the 57 of Lambert, he was right there in the mix of it.
Yeah, that was an interesting one. Here we go on board with Britzman, and 57 checked up significantly, and Britzman looked like he held his line, but there was a little bit of contact, and Sean Britzman is going to take this caution flag, I do believe.
He has been given the EOL penalty, so sounds to me like Britzman is going to get the penalty for that one.
Yeah, very interesting to see that out of that number 46 machine. And remember, Britzman, he was coming up through the field early in the race, and I think he kind of had an interesting strategy for this race. But with all that damage, I'm not quite sure if that is going to work out for him. Of course, at least in this first of 2 A mains. But we do have the tap out rule, and Greg, the tap out rule essentially is 2 taps. And you're yanked from the race. And remember tonight, because we have 2 races, it carries over. So if you cause 1 accident in this race, you tap once, and if you tap again in the second race, you will be DQ'd from the second race. So got to keep that in mind here tonight.
Yeah, and the tap out rule, that is done to try to keep responsibility among the drivers and kind of make them responsible for their own actions. That was added last season, the tap out rule was added just to try to keep some responsibility and keep some etiquette with the drivers here, because the first year we had a lot of issues in the Northwest Tour with drivers that would not tap out if they didn't feel it was their fault. So we would have a lot of arguments, and we actually lost several drivers because of that from the NorthWest Tour, some of which have come back, some of which still have not. But that was designed to try to keep the boys in check and let them know, hey, you're going to be held responsible for what they're doing. Let's see if we can dial up one of these guys.
Yeah, let's see if we can dial up someone. Of course, there's lots of different channels. Let's see if we can dial up the number 7 machine, your race leader, Dylan Huffines. Dylan Huffines, Peter Short here in the 3-wide TV booth. You got a copy?
Yes, I do.
All right, man. How's that number 7 machine driving out there? I was expecting to kind of see the tortoise versus the hare here tonight, but you're definitely out there leading, being the hare for the field. How's that number 7 for you right now?
It's a little bit loose on the bottom, and just it's kind of a weird setup this race. It's been tight at sometimes, it's been loose sometimes. Right now I'm just trying to hold on, pace myself in this race, and just see how it goes from there.
Are you focusing on saving those rear tires? And if so, how does a driver save the rear tires on a racetrack like this?
Honestly, I don't think I'm trying to save them that much because I've been pulling away a pretty decent lead. And there's been a lot of cautions. I'm just banking on that there's going to be way more. And I'll just lead start to finish. And on this track, the only way to save tires is to act like there's an egg underneath the throttle pedal. Just lightly start to get on it.
All right. Well, the pace car lights are off, so we'll let you get back to it, Dylan. But I like your strategy, just lead start to finish. And if you can do so, that will get you the checkered flag and the win here tonight. But we'll let you get back to it. Hopefully we get to talk to you a little bit later, bud.
Thank you.
All right, well, that is the number 7 of Dylan Huffines, and I like your strategy there, Greg, but if you get some green flag laps, it might not work out for him.
And I like what he said about the way to wheel it around, acting like you have an egg under the throttle. What that means is you want to be easy with the throttle and not mash it, because if there were... The idea there is if an egg was under your throttle, you don't want to smash the egg, and that's kind of what you want to do. You want to be easy on the throttle here. Let's see what he does, and another restart from Barnes up there, but he kind of backed out of it before taking after Hector, and he backs out of it that time. I think that time Barnes realized, hey, I might have jumped the start if I wasn't careful.
Yeah, absolutely. That number 8 machine, he was on the loud pedal before the green flag was even thrown. But Travis Barnes will slot in the 4th position, at least for now. But look at Seth Frazier already up into the 2nd position in that number 32. We saw him make that move just as the caution flag came out. And now he is trying to get the race lead from Dylan Huffines as they work through turn number 1 and 2. You look out back at that number 7 machine coming out of turn number 2, and you can see Frazier's got a great run here down Thunder Rally off into 3 and 4, and here comes Seth Frazier for the race lead here at Rockingham with 42 laps to go.
Seth Frazier just got engaged over near the beginning of the iRacing season, but right now he is engaged in a battle with Dylan Huffines. He got engaged the week before the season, and here he is engaged with Dylan Huffines in a battle for the lead. But here comes Barnes. He has gotten around Hector, and look out, because that 8 car coming in a hurry as well. Make it a 3-car battle, and Hector and Anderson, the winner of South Boston, closes in as Frazier gets the lead.
Yeah, don't look now, but Caden Anderson, last week's from Sobo, is inside the top 5, and Kyle Lahr, your B-main winner, now up into the 6th position.
Huffman's got the wall. Huffman's got the wall off turn number 2. Hangs on to it, keeps the position for now, but the 7 of Dylan Huffines caught the wall. That bottlenecked, and that caused Hector to slide up. Oh, some contact between Anderson and Hector. It looked like netcode from my angle, but there's a little bit of damage now on the 37 of Anderson. But from where I saw all netcode there as the 37 and the 82 just battled it out for position. We'll see, but there is a little bit of damage on the 37 of Anderson as a result of that.
Yeah, we'll have to keep an eye on that as this race goes on, but Anderson now up into the 4th position after getting around Bart Hector, but Bart's saying, hey buddy, not so fast. That number 82 dived down to the inside on that 37, backed out of it on entry into turn number 1, so they kind of sort that out. But here comes Kyle Lahr to the inside of number 82. Lahr looking to get up into the top 5.
Kyle Lahr, the B-main winner and winner at USA International, had 2 wins on the tour this time, or last season, as they slide through 3 and 4 as Lahr and Heck almost got together. Lahr did a great job to save it there, had to back out of it, and he will go to work once again on the 82 of Hector. A couple of Efreda boys battling it out right now. As a battle breaking out for the lead. Here comes Barnes, Travis Barnes to the inside of Seth Frazier. Seen all over the rock right now.
They're side by side for the race lead, side by side right behind them with Travis Barnes and that number 8 machine. Gonna dive it off into turn number 1 and 2. It sails through the center of the corner, and Travis Barnes, your new race leader, and Caden Anderson has moved up into the 3rd position, getting around Dylan Huffines, who's now under fire from Bart Hector Jr. They're side by side now for the 4th position. As
the leader in the wall, leader hard in the wall off of number 4. Give the lead back to Seth Frazier. And not for long as Barnes comes back on the inside. Here comes Anderson to the inside now.
These race cars all of a sudden starting to come a handful for these drivers as they've now got a decent number of green flag laps on them. And wow, Dylan Huffines is slotted into the 4th position quite nicely. Looks like he's trying to keep Kyle Lahr back as a caution flag has come out once again. It's Casey Garber in the number 96 that's gone around in turn number 3 and 4, right in the center of 3 and 4. Oh, possibly some contact there with the number 16 machine driven by Andy Fuller. Looks like no significant damage on that number 96. We'll see what happens here on the replay, Greg.
Fuller with a big dive. Yeah, there's some leg right there. At 96, I think the damage that we're seeing is from a previous incident on that number 96, kind of the Gordon vibe there. But so it has been a wild race so far, and I mean it's just getting started. We're not even to the B main distance yet. We still have a little over 30 laps to go in this first B main, but look at the damage on the 8 of Travis Barnes after that hit to the wall.
Yeah, a lot of right side damage. It'll be interesting to see if that affects that super late model at all, but he definitely has a lot of cars right behind him that have no damage on them, including Seth Frazier in the number 32, and I've been really impressed with this drive out of this number 32 machine. Started back there in the 9th position, now running in 2nd, kept it clean like I said, and you know that's going to be something that is always important on any type of 1 mile racetrack. I mean, these super lates, they produce a lot of downforce, but if you get things crinkled up, sometimes that downforce can work against you, and all of a sudden you have a damaged race car, just like that. So we'll see if that affects him going through this race in the number 8 machine. Do want to make note, however, Seth Frazier 2nd, Caden Anderson 3rd. Huffines has dropped back to 4th. That is the number 7 of Dylan Huffines. His brother, however, Garrett Huffines, has actually moved up into the 7th position. So those two Huffines brothers starting to converge upon each other as this race continues to go on.
Jockeying for position mid-race right now as Barnes leads the way, but he hit the wall hard. He was able to hold on to the lead, as I thought Frazier was just going to roll right past him on the outside there, but Barnes is able to hold on. But now we're going to see how it handles on the restart. He has been the best car on restarts in that blue number 8, but with this damage, I don't see that happening as well and as easily this time. And with Frazier, Anderson, and Huffines and Lahr, your top 5, and then of course you got Hector, who was right up there in the mix as well. Some fast cars behind you as well. If you're Travis Barnes, I probably would be pretty worried, but I also would be pretty confident knowing for that second main event that I'm getting a fresh car. I think I'm going to be really confident with how I'm running right now for that second main event also.
Yeah, without a doubt. One driver kind of want to highlight here did really, really well in the B main, Jason Tumbleton. He's worked his way up into the 9th position and started this race from 17th, and I expect to see that number 39 machine work his way forward, especially longer in the race. We saw him save his tires very well in that B main, which was 50 laps, but in this A main, slowly working his way forward. Now we're past the halfway mark. I wonder if we'll see that number 39 start to close in on the top 5, and this might be what you were talking about earlier, Greg. Those extra laps that these drivers got in the B main starting to work in their advantage.
And we saw it or we've seen it time and time again, especially in the Northwest Tour. But yeah, these extra laps in that B main, they have those extra 50 laps that these guys don't in a race mode. That's the key part here, is all the laps these guys did in practice. They could have done 50 laps in that practice session and been, you know, hey, whatever. But those guys were in race mode, which is different. As here we go, and we're gonna wave it off. Oh no, there it is, green flag.
Yeah,
The
green
yellow
flag in the air, but that they probably should have waved that green flag off, because that was the scrappiest green flag I've seen all day long. And lots of, the 7 of Huffman's in the wall. Dylan Huffman's hard in the outside wall coming out of turn number 2. That's going to shuffle up the field. There goes the number 22 of Kyle Lahr to the inside. Lahr got shuffled back on that restart because I think it was Bart Hector Jr. who just did not get going there. And no, it wasn't that 82. Looks like up near the front, I can't tell who. But a couple of people just could not get going, probably due to wheel spin. And it was Bart Hector that actually got the good start. It was the 8 machine, Travis Barnes, your race leader, who looks like he spun the tires a little bit. So definitely those tires starting to go away here on these restarts, as Marquis Smith has gotten underneath Dylan Huffman. So Huffman's all of a sudden starting to bleed here. His brother Garrett Huffman's passed him. So move Garrett into the top 5, Dylan now into the back half of the top 10.
And that also means that Marquis Smith, who finished second in the B main, was on a rail at this point of the race. As we're in what would have been the closing stages of that B main. This is when the 10 car was strongest, and guess what? He's 8th right now and coming to the front. So that 10 car showing once again that he's pretty quick right now in the later stages of the run.
Jason Templeton in the 39. I was just seeing this from the B main. He's actually slid back into the 11th position, but he's side by side with the 77 now for the 10th spot. As we keep an eye here on Kyle Lahr, who's currently running in the 6th position after getting around Ryan Gormley in the 44. So move Lahr up into the top 6. We have a side-by-side battle for the race lead. Up in the front, Seth Frazier and Travis Barnes. Barnes gets a little bit sideways coming out of the corner, but I think the 32 had to back out of it. And here comes Bart Hector looking to the inside of the 32. All of a sudden, the whole field's starting to get racy here. And I'll tell you what, Greg, I think this is the tires starting to speak. I talked to BJ Tidrick and Seth Frazier at USA. First race of the season. They said they want to make these cars hard to drive because they want a lot of racing to happen, and that's what we're seeing here as Caden Anderson has slid his way into the 3rd position, and Garrett Huffman's following through in the 42.
Huffines gets around Hector for the 4th spot, and Garrett Huffines in the 42. Suddenly he is up in the mix as well. But man, these tires are just screaming right now. As we have asked the B main point, we are at a track temperature of 143 degrees right now, and it is showing because these cars are all over the place. You've heard of Wicked Loose. You're seeing a new level of it. We need to come up with a name for what these are, because this is insane what's going on right now. Hot Loose.
Yeah, that's 143 degrees track temperature, and you see right there on your screen. Our producer is calling this a hot mess. Well, I'll tell you what, it is definitely a good mess, because these drivers out here on the racetrack putting on a good show. Look at Caden Anderson, just slid right by Seth Frazier and moved that number 37, looking for back-to-back wins here in the Northwest Tour. That number 37 has moved into 2nd, going to close in on Travis Barnes. Got to sing praises for this number 8 machine. You remember the 8 machine clobbered the outside wall, but doing a good job up at the front. So far leading the way here at Rockingham, but Caden Anderson starting to knock on that door here with 21 laps to go this time by.
Anderson is closing though, so the most recent winner in the Northwest Tour, Caden Anderson, his first win last week at South. He realized that, hey, he likes how that feels and he wants another one, as he's going after Travis Barnes right now, as he was able to get around Seth Frazier. And Frazier twice now, we thought he had the lead, but he had to back out of it. And here comes Kyle Lahr, the B main winner. He's up to 5th. He was peeking on Garrett Huffines there for the 4th spot in that 22 car. Lap traffic ahead of the leader, but they are nose to tail from 3rd to 6th right now, as the 44 of Ryan Gormley has also got up the mix.
Yeah, the lap car that you mentioned was the 00 of Chris Meringue down there on the apron doing a good job. A very kind and courteous thing to just down there and let the leaders go. Looks like we might have actually seen some smoke coming out of turn number 4. Oh, it's a 46 machine, Sean Breitzman. That engine has grenaded, and so this first A main will go no further for Breitzman. That is a tough hit for him. He's down there on the bottom of the racetrack coasting his way around, but we have a good battle now brewing for the 3rd position. Garrett Huffines has caught 32 of Frazier, and Caden Anderson has caught the 8 of Travis Barnes up at the front. Remember, Anderson has yet to lead a lap in this first A main. And knocking on the door, can we see someone potentially side-by-side finish for the win? We saw it in the B main, and we see it here again in the first A main.
We're going to see it here in about half a lap because Anderson got a good run on Barnes off turn number 4 that time, as we were on board with Kyle Lahr. He's engaged in a battle of his own, but Anderson got a great run off turn number 4. But that number 8, really good down the front stretch, so doing a great job, especially considering the damage on that number 8 car. So the 37 of Anderson trying to get up there and make another move. Here he comes again, and if battled too much, will that allow the likes of Frazier and Huffines and Lahr to get up there and enter this and make it a 5-car battle?
Ooh, wow, look at Travis Barnes shut the door. Caden Anderson, both of those cars really loose coming off the corner. You right on board with the number 32 of Seth Frazier as they go through turn number 3 and 4. And I'll tell you what, Travis Barnes is doing everything he can to hold on to that race lead. That is exactly what he needs to do if he is going to go to victory lane here at Rockingham Speedway. Definitely late apexing that corner. Ooh, man, really sideways there as he hit that bump coming out of turn number 2. It's a pretty sizable bump there as we go side by side. Here's the 42 of Huffines. Garrett Huffines going around the outside of Seth Frazier. Move him up into the
Lahr
third
tried to make the inside lane work, but he had to back out of it, and now he's in a battle with Gormley. And Gormley's actually gotten around the 22 of Kyle Lahr, it looked like. Yes, Lahr comes back in. Hector up there as well. And here comes Garrett Huffines. We haven't seen much of him. The pro late model winner at the Fall Classic in a 37 car field. Right now he's trying to track down number 37, Caden Anderson, to get up in the second. But man, oh man, Garrett Huffines, he has built some momentum from his championships in late models over the last couple of years in the Northwest, and he's trying to transfer it over for his first Northwest Tour victory. He's in the spot closing on Anderson and Barnes, and with those two battling, that's allowing Huffines to just focus on running his line and get up there quicker.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, I really liked what I saw the number 42 machine using the high line. We haven't really seen that, and Greg, you mentioned that early in the B main, that high line might start to come in over the long run, and that 42 just blew around the outside of Seth Frazier, and he's definitely closing in on your top 2, but the laps are winding down. We'll have 11 laps to go this time by.
Here comes Barnes, but Anderson is there. Anderson still wants the inside. Here he comes once again to the inside. And have a run this time. This is the run into turn 1 Caden Anderson's had all afternoon. He gets the nose in front. There's the exit speed of Barnes, though. Anderson's so much stronger in the corner. But Barnes just gets such a good run on the outside. But here, Anderson, they touch. They touch just barely. Barnes gets loose. Anderson leads at Rockingham in the closing stages.
Ooh, I'll tell you, that's the most amount of contact you can have without 2 cars going up into the fence. And here comes Garrett Huffines in the number 42 trying to get that second spot from Travis Barnes, but Kyle Lahr has gotten up into the 4th position with a move around Seth Frazier. All of a sudden, he's now slid back into the 6th position as Gormley to the inside, but Frazier says not so fast. Frazier trying to hold on to that top 5 spot here with now only 9 laps to go.
Battle for second is broken out as Huffines hits around Barnes in the turn number 2. Move Garrett Huffines to the lead, and now a couple of Yakima Speedway products. We've got Garrett Huffines out of Selah, Washington, and Caden Anderson out of the Tri-Cities, which is about an hour east. And we're going to battle it out with the 2 of them now, it would appear. But don't look now. Kyle Lahr is coming. If a caution comes out, this is going to put this whole race on its lid. And
Kyle Lahr in the 22 is starting to make some noise. Travis Barnes is looking like a dirt super late model. That number 8 machine sliding all over the racetrack. Those rear tires are completely shot on that number 8 machine. He's doing a fantastic job just holding on to it. I gotta say, a lot of wheelman skills.
Oh, he got the bar.
Lahr holds on to it, and Barnes slideways through turn number 1 and 2. Very impressive. Both of those drivers didn't end up in the wall, but we now have only 6.5 laps to go. Caden Anderson has checked out up at the front end of the number 37 machine, up to a 1 second lead over Garrett Huffines, who now has the 22 of Kyle Lahr closing in on him. Last time by, the Caden Anderson fastest car on the racetrack at 25.0, and we have a caution.
There it is. This will change everything. We see Garber involved once again. Who is that facing the wrong way on the one-way? 51, Christopher Heim. Up there.
See what happened on the 3-wide TV replay. Here's the 51 machine, and looks like, they happened in front of them.
Up there. Dylan Huffines and Casey Garber get there.
Oh, and I think then the 51 machine put on the brakes to slow down and had too much rear brake in it. That's definitely not what you want to have happen. But the 96 Casey Garber and Dylan Huffines definitely initiated the contact. We'll have to see what happened there. Ooh, looks like the 96 caught the wall. We'll see it right there. And yeah, the 96 caught the wall, and the 7 machine made the contact. And looks like the 51 machine was just a separate incident. Might have been related to the same thing, but Heim was wicked loose and was kind of fishtailing all the way down the backstretch, and unfortunately made that contact with the outside wall. Will now find himself 1 lap down as the leaders were able to get around him. That's definitely a tough break for Heim. But we are under caution here with 4 laps to go, and I'll tell you what, Greg, green-white checkers are in effect here in the Northwest Tour presented by Joe's Racing Products, and looks like that number 37 of Caden Anderson has the race lead, but anything can and will happen under these green-white checkers.
Green-white checkers. Seth Frazier was super excited about that over the off-season, lack of a better term. Frazier, he was bugging us for like 3 weeks. Has anybody tried the green-white checkered yet? Anybody tried the green-white checkered yet? Because he was so excited to implement that into the Northwest Tour. This is why right here.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you are watching this on a large screen TV, get off your seats, get in the chat, let us know who you want to win this race. Definitely make your voice heard here, both in the chat and in whatever room you're watching, because this is going to be a spectacular finish. We saw a spectacular finish for the B main, and that was just the B main. This is the A main. This is for all the marbles, and remember, we got another 75 laps of this lined up for you after this one has completed. So we still got a decent amount of time for this one left to go. Seth Frazier in the chat asking to see if anyone's going to tap out for this this last caution. So far, it looks like no one has taken the blame for the accident. So that will be interesting one to see. It will definitely be reviewed, I'm sure, at some point. Do want to make note that it does already look like Casey Garber in the 96 has tapped once tonight. So that could be very interesting to see if that one is ultimately called on the number 96. But unofficially, no one has yet to tap. I'm not going to say anything that is false here. We'll let the admins do their job. But as of right now, I will say the number 37 of Caden Anderson is doing his job perfectly, doing everything that number 37 needs to do to come home with a checkered flag. And really, that number 37 hasn't led many laps here tonight, but looking to lead the right one here in just a couple of laps as pace car lights are off.
Pace car lights are off, so it's going to be a green-white checkered finish. Caden Anderson, Garrett Huffines, your top 2. How about Kyle Lahr from the B main up into the 3rd spot? Two of the 3 guys from the podium last week at South Boston up in the top 3 right now once again. The oddball out of that is Garrett Huffines in the 42, but Huffines, he is hungry for that first iRacing Northwest Tour victory. I think he's got a shot if he can get back up to Caden Anderson. He's got to get back up there because he doesn't want to let Anderson get too far away from him.
Absolutely, and we do have a Garrett Huffines fan in the chat. Harley Kellogg saying, "Come on, Garrett." We will find out here. First of 2 attempts at a green-white checker. Pace car is off. Green flag back in the air. You see all the wheel spin from all the drivers. Garrett Huffines a little bit lower in the racetrack. Going to leave the outside for Kyle Lahr. They're going to be side-by-side going into turn number 1. No, they're not. The 42 of Huffines shuts the door. Anderson did exactly what he needed. Oh, look at the 22.
And Kyle Lahr gets together with Barnes, and we have a problem. Caution is out.
Kyle Lahr in the 22, almost up on the side of that machine, got a little bit loose. I'm interested to see if there was any contact there between Travis Barnes and the 22, but Travis Barnes there sandwiched into the outside wall. Hopefully not too much damage on the number 8 machine, but all of a sudden we're back under caution here, and we'll have our second attempt at a green-white checker.
And what a job by Gormley and Frazier to get through that. Did you see that on that replay? Let's see if we get another look at it. Here we go. Barnes has been given the EOL penalty, so it sounds like it's tapped on that one, as we'll see right there. There's the contact. But watch the red car right here. Just dive bomb to the inside. Frazier follows suit. Great job by those two to get through that.
Yeah, definitely. It looked like Kyle Lahr might have checked up a little bit as to not run into the 42 machine, and Travis Barnes then just tapped the rear end of that number 22. And I'll tell you what, ladies and gentlemen, that is probably the sketchiest part of this entire racetrack. Your car is out of control. All it takes is a slight nudge to get into a fishtail like what we saw there. And unfortunately for Travis Barnes, he will drop back to the end of the longest line here. And Kyle Lahr definitely has a lot of damage as well. Looks like they're going to be restarting pretty much with one another in 15th and 16th position. So all of a sudden, that's really good for Caden Anderson. Remember, Anderson came into tonight just 10 points back, I do believe, behind the 22 of Kyle Lahr for the points lead. And so remember, it is kind of the average finish of tonight's 2 events, this being the first one of 2 A mains that we're going to have. But Caden Anderson getting the luck of the draw on that one.
That was an awesome start there by Caden Anderson to pull away from the 42 of Huffines as the lap car, the 3 of Daniel Masters, up in front of him as of now. That's why there's a car in front of the 37. He's getting ready for the wave around. But all right, Newcastle Bears up in the top 3 now, with the 44 of Gormley up in the top 3 now as we get set for attempt number 2 at a green-white checkered.
Yeah, we will only have 2 attempts tonight here in this first of 2 A mains. Looks like I'm not 100% sure what Daniel Masters is doing up there. Did he get the lucky dog or the wave around in that number 3 machine? I'm not 100% sure. Or maybe just that's where he was at the time of the yellow. Not 100% sure, like I said. But Daniel Masters there currently being scored in the 20th position, not your race leader. It's the 37 there of Anderson, who is your race leader. Garrett Huffines currently in second. And like you said, Ryan Gormley, what can he do here in these 2 laps until the checkered flag drops? If we do see another yellow flag, that will be the end of this race. Travis Barnes looks like we'll be starting 17th. Dylan Huffines will be starting 18th. And Kyle Lahr 15th. Brian Lambert 16th, just to kind of highlight some of those drivers involved in that last accident, and some of those other drivers a little bit further back in the pack. But pace car lights are off. I'm sure Caden Anderson going to try and do exactly what he did on that last restart in the 37. Just get a good restart, don't spin those tires, and then drive it off into turn number 1 as hard as you can. But we've already seen we got some very hungry race car drivers out there on the racetrack, and they'll do everything they can do to get to victory lane in the first of 2 races. Remember, we still got 75 laps after this one, Greg, and it should be a fantastic finish here.
Another great race coming up, but here we go. First attempt did not go, and we will try it again. Anderson, Huffines, Gormley, your top three. And the green flag is, oh, we're racing once again. Let's see how it all unfolds this time as Anderson gets out to the lead into number 37. He pulls a good gap on Garrett Huffines. Down the backstretch for the second to final time. Anderson into turn 3. Looking strong through the 4 right now. Gormley taking a peek higher on Huffines, but the white flag is out for Caden Anderson. Lap to go at Rockingham.
Just 1 lap to go, and that number 37 has 0.4 of a second advantage over Huffines. Gormley in the 44 trying to make some noise and close in on Huffines. What can the 44 do? Nothing as of yet. There is a battle back in the pack for the 6th position between Bellamy and Hector, but it will be Caden Anderson coming out of the final corner, throwing some sparks, and Anderson will win the first of 2 A-mains here tonight. Huffines second, Gormley third, and Seth Frazier coming home fourth. And what about Marquis Smith, transferred from the B main, comes home with a top 5 finish here in this first of 2 75 lap races in the dual 150, 2 75 lap races, but definitely a very, very good race here, Greg. Caden Anderson didn't lead any laps until about 20 laps to go. And I'm not all too surprised because of the tire wear here around this racetrack, but that number 37 going to do some burnouts on the front straight.
No, he's just going to finish those tires off as he celebrates. And how about the run by Caden Anderson to make his way patiently through the field and get up there at the end? Remember, he started at the back because of that new rule with the top 3 starting in the back from the previous race, and he made his way up and got it done, and here he is in victory lane for the first of 2 races here at Rockingham tonight.
Now the big question is, will he be able to do the Rockingham double? Only time will tell. We're going to step away here for just a brief moment on 3Y TV, see if we can line up some interviews with your top finishers here tonight and see if what they've learned can transfer over into possibly getting a couple spots better, or if you're Caden Anderson doing the double here in just a moment. So we'll be right back with those interviews.
Welcome back, everybody. First of 2 Rockingham dual races in the books, and it's Caden Anderson coming home with the win. Second place, Garrett Huffines, and we have hopefully caught up with the 3rd place driver, Ryan Gormley. Greg Rent's up in the tower, 3Y TV. Ryan, do you have a copy?
Hey Greg, yeah.
Hey man, you did a great job there using patience, getting onto the podium, and coming home with that podium finish tonight. Definitely helps you out, especially with that points run you're having. But man, tell us about that run, because you did a nice job keeping your cool and getting up there at the end.
Yeah, I just tried giving everybody, you know, gotta take what you can get when you can, and tires were slick at the end there, so it was trying to get the power down.
And Ryan, real quick, we want to talk to you a minute about the moment that you got up into the podium by dodging that incident in front of you with Kyle Lahr and Travis Barnes. Tell us what you saw when you dive bombed to the bottom trying to avoid the 22 and the 8 car there.
Yeah, I saw the 8 was getting slowed up somehow, and then the 22 went down. As soon as he hit the apron, I knew he was going to get a little bit sideways and correct. As soon as I saw him overcorrect, I let off a little bit, went down, and luckily I got by.
Got by and you got up into the 3rd spot. And Ryan, this is the first race of the 2. Are you going to take anything that you learned in this race and apply it to the second one, or are you going to try to go into the second one with the exact same strategy that you had for this one?
I'm going to try to be actually a little bit more aggressive, because I got overtaken a few times at the start there. So, but I did get lucky staying out of wrecks. So, that's racing.
All right, well, Ryan, we'll let you get ready for the second race, but before we do, we know you got some guys you want to give a shout out to. Who do you want to have or thank for helping you get here?
Yeah, I'd like to thank Joe's Racing Products, 3Y TV. You guys are awesome, and all the fans that watch. Go.
All right, congratulations on the 3rd place, Ryan. We will let you go get ready for race number 2 here shortly. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Peter Short has caught up with 2nd place, Garrett Huffines.
That I have, and Garrett Huffines short here in the 3Y TV booth. You got a copy?
Yes, I do.
Well, man, that number 42, you started in the 10th position, and you were able to slowly but surely work your way up there into the top 5 and in contention there for the win. We only got a few short runs there at the end. Were you hoping to possibly see some longer green flag runs there towards the end?
Definitely longer runs. It was short runs didn't play in my favor because so much wheel spin on the starts.
Yeah, absolutely. It looked like it was a handful getting that car going. In fact, I saw you a little bit lower on the racetrack than some of the cars around you when we went back to Green Flag Racing. Was that to kind of manage that wheel spin in case it shot to the right when you hit the throttle?
Yeah, I was just trying to stay in the middle of the track it's such a wide track. I'm just trying to protect what I have.
Yeah, absolutely. So I know Greg just asked this question to Ryan, but is there anything that you can take from this race that you might do differently in the second of the 75 dual races here tonight?
I'm gonna try to pass and get to the front a little bit faster. When the tires go away, it's almost impossible to pass, and there's a lot of checking up, so I'm gonna try to roll the high side.
Very interesting to hear that. We'll watch for that number 42 machine on the high side here in race number 2. Before we let you go, you got any shout outs for us?
Hermiston sponsored the race, right?
Yes.
I know I believe they did, and I think they sponsored last week's race. So yeah, definitely a big sponsor here.
Yeah, I just want to thank them for making this possible. This takes a lot of time and helps out BJ and Seth a lot when we get these great sponsors like Hermiston and Joe's and all of them to help out with the series.
Absolutely, it's a lot of fun to be a part of, and I'm glad we have these sponsors like Joe's Racing Products along the way. But nonetheless, Garrett, we'll let you get back to it, and best of luck in race number 2.
Thank you.
All right, and I believe that Greg Rentz has caught up with the winner of the first race, the number 37 of Caden Anderson.
Yeah, Caden Anderson, Greg Rentz, 3YTV, you got a copy.
Yeah, I got a copy.
Hey, man, you got the win in South Boston last weekend, and here you are back in victory lane. But, man, it was a battle for you, making your way through the field, starting in the very back, but you got it done. And just tell us about your race and how you were able to work your way through the field like that.
Yeah, this track's really tough. I honestly compare this track to South Boston, not size-wise and banking-wise, but grip-wise. both tracks have very low grip, so it's constantly saving your tires. So my goal was to just ride around and kind of get to the front as fast as I could, but at the same time, take my time doing it because I know you had to save your tires for the end.
You mentioned it comparing to South Boston, a track that you won on last week. So were you able to take some stuff from your win in South Boston and apply it to it? Or did you kind of just throw caution to the wind like you would on a slick track?
I wouldn't say I applied the same idea, but I definitely took a little bit of precaution like I did in South Boston to manage to get up to the front.
All right, man. Well, you just led the most laps. And tell us about that last pass on Travis Barnes, because you guys were going at it for a while. It looked like you were better through the corner, but off the corner, it looked like you were kind of having a hard time hanging with him. But once you were finally able to get up there and get the run that you needed, you're able to pass him pretty convincingly. Tell us about that last battle with him there.
Yeah, it's a really good battle. I love racing against Travis. He's usually really clean with everyone, and he's pretty clean with me. And I think he screwed up coming off of one of the corners. I was able to get underneath him and was able to stick it down there and get by him.
All right, Caden, we'll let you go get ready to see if you can pull off the sweep. But real quick, we know you got some shout-outs you want to give, so let's hear them. Who you got?
Yeah, I wanted to give a shout-out to Hermiston Raceway for sponsoring this event, and Mike Wood Race Designs for painting my car.
All right, we'll let you go get ready for race number 2 on tonight. Caden Anderson, 2-time winner this season, and he's going to go try to complete the sweep and get win number 3. Good luck in the main event. That wraps it up here for race number 1. And Peter, just like we anticipated, later stages of that race, it got crazy in this first of 2 main events.
That it did, and we're just going to go through the race results there. Caden Anderson getting that win. Garrett Huffman second. Ryan Gormley third. Seth Frazier comes home fourth. Marquis Smith transferring from the B main finished fifth. Bard Hector finishes sixth. Nick Bellamy seventh. Jason Templeton also transferred from the B main, comes home eighth. Shane Quinn ninth. Josh Childress finishes in the 10th position. BJ Tidrick comes home 11th. Travis McKinney, who was the fastest car in qualifying, but unfortunately got involved in an accident here pretty early on, comes home in 12th. Andy Fuller comes home 13th. Kyle Lahr 14th. Travis Barnes 15th. Casey Garber 16th. Brian Lambert, Dylan Huffines, Christopher Heim, Daniel Masters round out your top 20. And then 21st, James Paulston, Chris Morang, Casey Tillman, and Sean Breitzman rounding out your 24-car grid. Well, boy, oh boy, we got another 75 laps lined up here, and I believe we're going to step away for just a brief moment, but we'll be back with the 75-lap event, round 2, I should say, of this dual race at the Rock here in just a minute here on 3YTV. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to round 2 of the Hermiston Raceway 75's here on 3Y TV. I'm Peter Short and joined in the booth by Greg Rentz and, of course, Carlos Acosta doing all the production back in the production truck. But, Greg, all of a sudden, these cars are back to new, the tires are back to new, and we got another 75 laps, another 75 miles around this joint. These same drivers going to go jump back in their cars and do battle once again.
So nice, we're going to do it twice, Peter. I mean, that was probably one of the best races we've ever had in the iRacing.com Northwest Tour, brought to you by Joe's Racing Products. Oh, we got some action already. They're already getting into it. They're in practice here for the second main event, but more action. Yikes! That's Kyle Lahr as well. But and Peter, like you mentioned, we have just had so much great racing today in both the B main and the A main. We still got one more 75 lap main event before this one's over, so it is going to be hectic here in this second main event. I'm so excited to see how this unfolds.
Yeah, while we were away, I mean, all three of us, including the production truck, we're all talking about how fun these cars look to drive. I mean, it is a lot of fun watching these super late models essentially dirt tracking their way around this 1 mile racetrack. I mean, and they're not a slouch around here. I'm watching speeds down the front straightaway. They're up to 160 miles an hour headed off into turn number 1. These cars are lightning quick around this place. In fact, I wouldn't be at all surprised if these things are faster around this joint than the actual NASCAR Cup cars nowadays. They're just so quick and sideways. It is so fun to watch. And we want to thank each and every one of you joining us here on YouTube, watching us here on 3Y TV, because this is a fantastic show that all these drivers are putting on from the Northwest Tour presented by Joe's Racing Products. And you can see all the cars going around, coming out of turn number 4. It's kind of interesting to note, we haven't really brought this up here tonight, Greg, but this front straightaway is very unique because it isn't straight, doesn't have a uni or a constant radius, that sort of thing. It kind of has a single kink down it, and it's a really weird front straight, and the drivers have to really watch their entry into turn number 1 because it kind of suckers you sometimes into hitting that outside wall just because of how it is arced so uniquely.
And noticing, looking at it from the aerial shot, unlike most tracks that kind of have a similar layout, you're talking your Las Vegas Motor Speedway, your Kansas, and Chicago, where the kink is right at the finish line. Looking at it, noticing the finish line is actually a little bit before that kink, so they're actually coming to the checkered flag in a straight line. As soon as they cross the line, that's when they got to arc it to the left a little bit, unlike those big cup tracks in which it's right smack in the center and you're kind of turning as you cross the line. So a little bit of a different strategy. It's a unique racetrack, and it just makes you more and more wish that this track was still on the cup schedule, and hopefully once these 5-year agreements in the cup series are done and over with for good, it'll be a thing that we can see much more often.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that frustrates me as a fan of motor racing, that we have all these cookie cutter racetracks. I mean, this racetrack does not fit any single mold. It's unique in every single way. Turn 1 and 2 races very different than turn number 3 and 4. You have a very unique front straight. Your entry into the corner is so different than your exit out of the corner. It's just every single end of this racetrack is different, and it is just absolutely awesome to be out here back at the Rock here in the iRacing service. You can see the checkered flag has been flown on this practice session, as this field will line up here in just a moment. Do want to make a note, the in-race admin has sent out a post and says that we have a couple drivers in this race starting with a strike, a tap out. Of course, we have our tap out rule. We explained it a little bit earlier. But those drivers being the number 3 of Daniel Masters, the 10 of Marquis Smith, the 00 machine Chris Meringue, the number 8 machine of Travis Barnes, the 16 of Andy Fuller, the 77 of Josh Childress, the number 96 of Casey Garber, the number 20 as well of Nick Bellamy. I believe that is, I think that is all the drivers that have a strike coming into this one. So it's going to be interesting to see if we see any drivers fall victim of the two-tap rule. But do notice that the field has seen an inversion from the last race. And why don't we take it through your starting order, Greg?
Starting on the pole will be the number 96 of EC Garber, and a guy that turned a lot of heads in that second main event, Travis Barnes to his outside. Then we got Kyle Lahr, the B main winner, Andy Fuller, Travis McKinney, BJ Tidrick, Josh Childress, Shane Quinn, Jason Templeton, and Nick Bellamy rounding out your top 10, Peter.
Bart Hector Jr. will start from 11th, Marquis Smith, Seth Frazier, Brian Lambert, Dylan Huffines from 15th, Christopher Heim, Daniel Matthews 17th, James Paulson, Chris Meringue, Casey Tillman, Sean Brightsman, Ryan Gormley, Garrett Huffines, and Caden Anderson round out your 24-car grid. And I'll tell you what, another 75 laps, Greg. This is sure to be, once again, another spectacular show out of these Northwest Tour drivers.
Here we go. Lights on the base car are off. 75 laps. We're going to do it all over again. Keep your eyes on the 8 and the 22 of Lahr, because those are the guys that are making a lot of noise in that first one. We're green flag racing, and Kyle Lahr already wants a piece of Casey Garber going into turn number 1 there.
Yep, side by side for the race. Oh, contact between the 22 and the number 96, Casey Garber on the inside. And I think the number 22 of Kyle Lahr is just going to pull off to the side of the road here, let everyone by. That's kind of a sportsmanship move. I think Kyle Lahr says, hey, buddy, that was all me. I'm sorry for that contact. And all of a sudden, Kyle Lahr is going to go all the way back. Oh, we see contact a little bit further back between the 51 of Christopher Heim. And Heim is sliding his way through the inside of the racetrack. And back up onto the racetrack goes Heim. And we saw that replay there briefly, but Christopher Heim, a huge save here on lap number 1, so 2 almost incidents. There you kind of saw the back end of it, but we're 3 wide going off into turn number 1. No, Bart Hector Jr. backs out of it, and all of a sudden, chaos everywhere erupting around the rock.
Are we sure these drivers changed tires between races? This is looking like the end of that first one, so just sit back and enjoy, because we got a long race to go. Travis McKinney, fast time in qualifying, had a very, very difficult break in that first main event, leading the way here early in race number 2. He's still searching for that first win. Got a couple pole awards last year and got one tonight as well. So we'll see if he can hold on to this one and make progress and see if he can get that first win, leading early.
Tough break for Garrett Huffines when the number 51 machine was sliding through the infield of the racetrack. It looks like Caden Anderson actually checked up, and the 42 got into the back of Caden Anderson. And so Garrett Huffines has a significant amount of damage there towards the back of the field. Also, Casey Tillman got completely sideways in the number 92 machine. So that was a little bit crazier than I thought. But everything has so far settled down. And I wonder, Greg, if this is what Garrett Huffines was talking about. He wanted to work his way up to the front sooner rather than later. Is that possibly what we're seeing, and seeing some aggression out there on the racetrack this early on? But Travis McKinney out front in that 48 machine.
I think it could be playing a role, just the fact that, you know, these guys are like, hey, we know what's going to happen. We got to get to the front earlier if we really want to mess with it. But or just because we saw the incidents unfolding late in the going, so I think guys are trying to get to the front quicker and get out of that situation. But just racing all over as we're watching Bart Hector Jr. battle with Seth Frazier. These guys were battling up in the top 3 in the first main event, and here they are mid-pack right now, 8th and 10th, or 9th and 10th right now. This is a battle for the 9th spot between Frazier and Hector. So just shows you just how much different this already is in this race.
Yeah, Seth Frazier will drop back to, maybe a little bit of contact there. Josh Childress throwing a block on Nick Bellamy just a little bit in front of that battle. Ooh, the 16 there, Andy Fuller, looks like he clipped the apron possibly, but they're almost 3 wide behind them. Bellamy Shane Quinn and Josh Childress. We didn't really mention Shane Quinn all too much in that first race, but that number 4 machine started to make some noise here in this one. That number 4 machine we are on board with right now, right behind the number 77 of Josh Childress. Childress unfortunately had a decent amount of accident avoidance in that first race. I just don't think it went his way, but trying to make good use of this track position early on in this one, as we are already on lap number 10 so far, clean and green, no yellow flags so far. Travis Barnes, that number 8 machine, trying to track down the 48 of Travis McKinney.
Track temp staying a little bit stable. Well, right as I said, that it rises 139. We saw it at 143 in that first main event, rising once again here on this 82-degree day in Rockingham, North Carolina, in the North Carolina foothills. Hot day on the racetrack day, and Travis McKinney likes the setup here because he's set fast time and he's got the 48 on rails right now. If he can keep clean, the 48 might be very, very hard to pass. He's already up to 9/10 of a second over Travis Barnes. It's 3 seconds back to third place, Andy Fuller in the 16.
Yeah, and you know, man, that number 48 machine right now on rails, and remember, did not have the race he was looking for in the first of these 2 races here tonight, and that number 48 is kind of trying to balance things out, because even though he was able to salvage a somewhat decent finish with the 48, which was, it just did not look like it was on pace since his accident in the first A main, that number 48 set sail up there, ladies and gentlemen. That thing is fast there.
That thing is in the wall. James Paulson in the 80 hit the wall hard. He was the sitter in that first one, and we mentioned that he won 2 races on the tour last year, both of which came in this twin format, but it's not going to happen tonight, as he has gotten caught up in incidents both times, and now James Paulson pulling into the pits with heavy, heavy damage. We go back to this mid-pack battle as we see the number 82 of Heck trying to get around the 40. I believe that's the 4. Yep, that is the 4 car of Shane Quinn, Nick Bellamy up front as well. Seth Frazier, Kyle Lahr there as well. Here's some of that mid-pack racing that we saw last time. We're going to go 3 wide down the backstretch. Frazier inside. They back out of it as Quinn gets the spot. Lahr gets around Frazier on the outside now, going after Hector off of turn number 4. Seeing a little bit of damage on the 20 of Bellamy. So we'll see if that affects him as the race wears on. We're 15 laps down. We're on lap 16, and it's all Travis McKinney up front right now.
And I'll tell you what, we've seen already more green flag running than we did in the first 15 laps of the first A main. And remember, that's just going to affect those tires more and more, as these tires will continue to get a little bit more slippery out there for everyone in the field. And let's keep an eye on this number 39 machine, Jason Templeton. He had a run on the 16 of Andy Fuller there briefly coming out of turn number 2, but got a little bit loose and had to roll out of it. Remember, we saw Templeton really, really fast in the B main earlier tonight, and that machine is starting to move forward, as is this man right here, the 22 of Kyle Lahr. Remember, backed out of it after having contact with the number 96 machine of Casey Garber, who's currently 1 lap down on pit road. I think that's got to be tonight for Casey Garber. I think that number 96 is actually taking tires right now, which is not legal in this series, so I would think that is it for Casey Garber, although he's coming back out on the racetrack. Ladies and gentlemen, we caught that number 96 red-handed right there, getting fresh Hoosier tires. Let's see what he's going to do out there on the racetrack. This is probably not what Kyle Lahr wants to see. Maybe there could be a little bit of payback out there. We'll keep an eye on that number 96 for now, but definitely a lot of racing still to go on this racetrack, as we still have 56 laps to go.
56 laps to go, and guys are settling down, and this is something you typically see in a second B main. You see them in the early stages settle down because they learned what they can and can't get away with in that first main event. Fuller goes to battle now with the 39 of Templeton, who's breathing down his neck. Templeton with a really good run through 1 and 2 there. But you see Fuller still doing a good job hanging on to that 3rd spot. He's a road course regular, so gotta give a shout out to Fuller for doing good on an oval when we're used to seeing him in road course racing, doing a great job here on a very tricky racetrack, hanging in the 3rd spot right now. But how much longer can he keep Templeton behind him?
Man, you saw Seth Frazier get all sorts of loose coming out of turn number 2 there, right behind Kyle Lahr. Moved Lahr up into the top 10. Seth Frazier back to 11th as Lahr. He's going to get loose coming out of turn number 4. There's Shane Quinn in number 4 machine, currently riding in the 9th position. A little bit of right front damage on that number 4 machine we can report. The 77 of Childress right in front of him has damage on the left-hand side of the car. Not sure if those two cars had it coming together. There is a side-by-side battle for the 4th position here, though. BJ Tidrick getting around Jason Templeton. And so moved Tidrick up into 4th. Andy Fuller, next car in front of him. You can't miss that bright green machine. The 48 of Travis McKinney, however, as the 00 of Chris Morang is on pit road. Not quite sure what's up. There's a lot of damage on that 00. This is not the night Chris Morang has been looking for. And in fact, Chris Morang is taking tires right now as well. So that, like we said, that's not legal here in the series. They will receive some kind of penalty for it. Not 100% sure what happened to Morang, but getting reports that it happened on the back stretch, getting a little bit loose and clipping the wall. There's a number 96 machine. Remember, he had taken tires. Look at this battle. This is a battle for... Oh, the 20 move Kyle. Dirt trucking it through turn 3 and 4. Just going to say, he closed up on the back bumper of the number 4 machine of Shane Quinn, but he's going to lose a ton of track position with that move.
What a slide by Kyle Lahr. Got a run on the 4, but he clipped the apron with the nose of the 22 car, and it just sent him for a ride. He did a great job to hang on to it. But man, that 22 car, scary moment for Kyle Lahr. As we're taking a look at the number 10 of Marquis Smith, as we're on board with Kyle Lahr, but a couple cars back is the 10 of Marquis Smith, and it's a guy I've been very, very impressed with tonight. Making runs in the B main and making a run in the top 5. Andy Fuller, we're getting reports that Andy Fuller caught the wall. Nope.
He didn't catch the wall, but he got freight trained here by BJ Tidrick and Jason Templeton. We have a caution, first caution here tonight. Car around on the backstretch. I do believe it's the 3 machine of Daniel Masters who has gone around. We'll see if there was any contact there. The number 7 machine. That's Dylan Huffines going around in the 7 machine. And that's not what Dylan Huffines was looking for. It looks like that number 7 just broke loose there on the high side, and the number 3 had nowhere to go. We'll see this from a second angle. And that number 7, yeah, just kind of looks like he came down the racetrack. Looks like the 3 was pretty much as low down as he could have gone. And unfortunately, I think Huffines just got sideways there, Greg, and nothing the 3 could have done.
Not a chance for that 3 car. Right in front of... Down comes the 7 of Dylan Huffines, and he has been giving the EOL penalty. So Dylan Huffines led so much of that early stage of the first main event, and ever since then, it has just not been his night here at the Rock. Track temp is back up 140 though, so we're creeping back up to what we saw in that first race. Travis McKinney likes it though, as he is leading the way. He was doing a great job. Let's see if we can dial up somebody, Peter. Let's see if we can dial up. Let's see if we can dial up the race leader, Travis McKinney.
Yeah, Travis McKinney, Peter Short here in the 3-wide TV booth. You got a copy?
Yeah, I got you.
Man, that number 48 was on rails. Not only do you have the fastest lap in this race, but you actually had the fastest 5-lap average before this caution flag came out. So that car with all that clean air is definitely looking pretty good out there. How's it driving from your perspective?
Tires are getting a little warm. Track's hot and greasy. It likes to slide around and just get out front, clean air. Not have to worry about anybody running into me. Seems to help.
Absolutely. We definitely saw your shortcomings in that first race. Unfortunately, none of your own doing, just kind of getting involved in that accident there early on. But how important is it for you to kind of rebound with a good finish in the second race here tonight?
I need a good race. I mean, this is the 4th race this season, and I've been wrecked out of the first 3, so I'm just trying to keep the car clean, be patient, let it come to me, and, you know, get a long run. And that's what I've been waiting for, is just a long green flag run where we can spread out and do some racing.
Yeah, well, we almost got 30 laps under your belt in that first green flag run. Definitely you showed your muscle. Hopefully you can keep that going here as we get close to the halfway distance in the second of 2 mains here tonight. Best of luck, Travis, and hopefully we get to talk to you here in a little bit.
I appreciate it, guys.
All right, well, that is the number 48 machine of Travis McKinney, having a little bit of connection issues there. Hopefully that sorts itself out now that he's no longer in the channel with us. But definitely interesting to hear that, Greg, that he's just out there turning laps once that long green flag run, because he was making the most of it there.
Yeah, and it's going to be if he can keep that strategy going, or when really get 48 car turned up, especially with a very fast car behind him, another Travis Barnes in the 8 right behind him. And we saw what that 8 car has here in the middle stages of that first main event. We're closing in on the middle stages of this one. This is right about when that 8 car heated up, and we saw that the damage on that 8 car didn't slow him down last race, so we'll see if he can keep it up. And those connection issues on the 48, they've got me a little bit worried, and seeing how he can maintain it. Looks like we're going double file this time.
Yeah, this is only our first restart, so I believe we will go double file for at least this restart, but definitely interesting to see that around the racetrack. Got to keep an eye out for Casey Garber. Remember, he did take tires under his pit stop under green flag conditions, but he has significantly fresher tires than a lot of the other race cars out there here tonight, and it'll be interesting to see if he can work his way up through the field with those fresher tires, but it'll be interesting to see what kind of penalty he gets for that as the pace car is set to go off here. We'll get set to go back to green flag racing. Greg, take it away.
Go McKinney and Barnes coming to a green flag. 2 Travises on the front row, and McKinney is going to try to bring BJ Tidrick with him, but Tidrick with a big bobble off the initial restart. McKinney gets the lead into turn number 1 as Barnes is able to shut the door on Tidrick after the slide from the 72 of Tidrick down the backstretch. Oh, behind him, and a big wreck, a huge wreck up in the turn number 2. Josh Childress involved. Looks like the 00 Meringue, Masters, Heim, and a couple other drivers involved, but man, oh man, tough break. That was a massive wreck. Here we see it once again.
Thunder has struck. Well, I probably should say lightning has struck on Thunder Rally. I didn't think that through. But nonetheless, lots of cars involved here, like you said. And oof, boy, that number 77 of Childress getting a wallop with the outside wall. We'll have to see if we can see exactly what happened here. And I think it happened between, the initial contact was between Seth Frazier and the 77 of Childress. And it was on from there. Look at all the cars receiving damage. The number 3 back there, Daniel Masters. The number 51, Christopher Heim, receiving damage. A lot of race cars, unfortunately, receiving damage, including the 46 of Sean Brightsman. Got a piece of it under this one as well. Casey Tillman. Hasn't been Casey Tillman's night. Casey Tillman has been involved, it seems like, in more cautions than not, and pretty much none of them of his own doing. And that number 92 machine on pit road now to get damage repaired, as is the 42 of Garrett Huffines and the 7 of Dylan Huffines. So those 2 cars down there to get that damage fixed. And there's the number 57 also down there, Brian Lambert. He was involved in this accident. Lots of cars claimed under this one.
Back under a caution, and McKinney had a good restart that time. Unfortunately, just another case of cautions breed cautions, and we've seen so many times in this series and various others. But man, those connection issues for the 48, they are getting worse as this race is progressing. That's got me worried for this long haul, especially with 40 laps to go still. What is Travis Barnes doing down in the grass?
I was just thinking the same thing. I was like, the number 3 down there is mowing the grass. He does have the Yard Guy LLC on the back of his machine. So wonder if
maybe that's it.
Yeah, maybe he's mowing the yard for the folks here at Rockingham Speedway. Not 100% sure. But that number 8 machine back up on the racetrack where it presumably it belongs. I don't know. Maybe Travis Barnes thinks otherwise. But that number 8 machine is currently running in the 2nd spot. And let's see if we maybe we can actually grab him and have a quick word with him and see what's going through his head right now. Currently trying to see where that number 8 machine is in the TeamSpeak server.
I found him. Travis Barnes, Greg Rentz, 3YTV. You got a copy?
Yeah, this is Travis Barnes.
Hey Travis, we kind of saw you down in the grass a little bit there under that last pass here through the front stretch. You giving a shout out to a sponsor there, or what was going on there?
Yes, sir. Chris in the Yard Guy LLC right there. Proud sponsor of the number 8 machine here in the NorthWest Tour. Alrighty, we're getting ready to go green.
Yeah, all right, we're gonna let you get back to your get back into the zone, but we just wanted to see what was up with that. Good luck the rest of the way, and we'll see if we can catch you the rest of the way.
Alrighty, sir. Have a good day.
That's pretty cool to see their sponsorship plug under the caution flag for the number 8 of Travis Barnes. But I'll tell you what, Greg, we are now at the halfway distance, essentially, and Travis McKinney so far led pretty much all of those laps, a good majority of those laps at least. We'll have to see what Travis Barnes can do now that he's got a little bit of grass on the tires of that number 8 machine. BJ Tidrick running in 3rd, Jason Templeton 4th, Andy Fuller rounds out your top 5. Pace car lights are off here. You'll see that Ford Mustang pace car down on pit road, and we'll see those Hoosier tires, I should say, been lit up one more time as Travis McKinney is off and away here. He's going to pull BJ Tidrick up into the 2nd position. Travis Barnes might be thinking, maybe I shouldn't have got that grass on my tires, as he slid back into 3rd position, into the wall.
I was going to say, I think he caught the wall just a little bit there on that restart, just a hair.
Yeah, just a little bit coming out of turn number 2, flying off the right side of that 8 machine once again. Andy Fuller's actually been pulled up into the 4th position. Jason Templeton back to 5th. So we'll keep an eye on that one. Nick Bellamy in the 6th position in the number 20 machine. That's been had a pretty quiet night for that. Oh, the
Barnes.
8 machine. Barnes all over the racetrack, and possibly that's the grass speaking. As very tight between Kyle Lahr and Nick Bellamy. That's the battle for the 6th position. Move Lahr up into 6th as Bellamy's going to slide back to 7th.
Travis Barnes, the grass on the tires might be affecting him.
Sorry to interrupt. The number 3 of Daniel Masters was around on the backstretch. Not quite sure what happened there. It was the 3 in the 96. Casey Garber and Daniel Masters had it coming together, and the 3 took a tow. Both of those cars heavily damaged on the backstretch. I think Garber actually got it going again, but it's on pit road. So we'll have to keep an eye on that as that unfolds, as we have a side-by-side battle for 2nd. Here comes Barnes again underneath Tidrick. Barnes
Tidrick got loose. Tidrick got loose in the Rustic Moon Ford down the backstretch into turn number 3. Barnes and Tidrick battling side by side for the 2nd spot. Here comes Kyle Lahr, though. He peaked on the inside of Andy Fuller and Templeton. Barnes gets to 2nd, but he clears Tidrick, brings Templeton with him in that 9 car. Trying to sort things out here. Lahr again with a big move to the bottom. Kyle Lahr wants this car to handle on the bottom. He slides up into Fuller, and we got a big problem here as Fuller around and collects the field behind him.
Yeah, and the number 42 there, Garrett Huffman's getting involved. The 10 machine of Marquis Smith getting a good chunk of it too. You see that initial contact right there, and then after that it looked like Netcode Netcode. That was really strange. Or maybe the track up there was dirty or something, but that number 16 looked like a pretty square hit. And then maybe the 16 and the 20. Oh, you see the 20 had a little bit of connection issues there. And I don't think that helped that cause. And it might have just been the 20 blinking that led to some netcode there. I'm not 100% sure. It was definitely questionable whether or not the 22 was at fault there. But unfortunately for Andy Fuller, he was a pinball there and got knocked around by quite a few drivers. So that 16 of Andy Fuller on pit road right now. You see that replay once again. You see the 42, or we just moved off there, but the 42 Garrett Huffman's getting a good chunk of front end damage, and that's not what that 42 of Huffman's wanted. Of course, had a great run in the first race here tonight. Not 100% sure who's going to claim that accident there, Greg. Doesn't look like anyone is tapping just yet. I don't know how to call that one. That one was kind of an interesting one.
Not sure what really to make of that, as nothing in the chat yet that says anything about a penalty or someone tapping. Last time we had the situation, there was actually a message from the admin saying, hey, is anyone going to tap? I haven't seen that yet either, so waiting to see what the call is here off of that. Definitely interesting.
Yeah, Kyle Lahr currently out there on the racetrack in the 5th position. Of course, there was that initial contact between the 16 and the 22 where Lahr just kind of pushed up the racetrack. And, but not 100% sure if that was to blame or if there was a little bit of net code. It definitely looked like the 16 was going straight and wasn't having any issues before that car just kind of whipped around on him. So, not 100% sure. Can let you know, though, all of the people watching, that both Josh Childress and Daniel Masters have both taken their cars to the garage, as has James Poulsen. Childress will be scored 23rd here tonight, James Poulsen 24th. Casey Garber just came back out on the racetrack, so Casey Garber will slot Daniel Masters back into 22nd. So, not 100% sure what's happening out there in the racetrack, but definitely a very interesting one here in the second half of this second dual 75 lap race brought to you by Hermiston Raceway. A very interesting one, Greg. It'll be interesting to see how that affects anything going forward.
I think as this race goes on, I think we're going to start seeing it more and more racy right now.
Yeah, it's interesting to see our top 5 because Travis McKinney, he's gained 4 spots since the start of this race. Travis Barnes is actually where he started this race, in 2nd. Jason Templeton started 9th, he's up to 3rd. BJ Tidrick started 6th, up to 4th. Kyle Lahr started 3rd, he's actually slid back 2 positions, he's back to 5th. Then you have Bart Hector, Caden Anderson. Gotta keep an eye on Caden Anderson. Won the first of our 75 lap races, and is into 7th position, Greg. That is very, very impressive, and doesn't look like there's a scratch on that number 30. Well, there is a scratch on the 37. There's some right front damage, but there's damage on a lot of these cars.
See what happens as they do the green. All eyes on the 48 of Travis McKinney. We go green flag racing here at Rockingham. Once again, we're past halfway. 28 laps to go for Travis McKinney in the 48. He has led from pretty much the get-go thus far. He loves this racetrack. We'll see if he can benefit for his first tour win.
And let's keep an eye on Caden Anderson diving to the inside of Hector here, going through turn number 3 and 4. That number 37 trying to gain the 6th position here. Ooh, Hector slams the door on that number 37 as they head off into turn number 1. Good move there. Side by side right in front of them, though, BJ Tidrick just got passed by the number 22 of Lahr. Move Lahr up into 4th position here in that Joe's Racing Products machine. Trying to close in on the back bumper of Jason Templeton. Travis Barnes is in 2nd spot, but the 48 machine, Travis McKinney, was just out of the server for like, I don't know, a good 10 seconds there. That was very scary for Travis McKinney. That number 48 does not want to fall out of the server due to connection issues, but definitely kind of flirting with it here tonight. And Greg, as a race car driver, that is really something that gets into your head and something that you just kind of got to clear your mind of and, you know, sit down, do what you got to do to get the win, even if you're blinking on and off the racetrack for everyone else.
Yeah, for sure. Travis McKinney just going to pretend that it's not happening and go as long as he possibly can, as we're in the final third of this race now as we complete lap 50, starting lap 51. McKinney leading the way, but man, it has been an adventure for him, not in racing terms, but just in the fact that he's hoping his internet connection holds up long enough.
Yeah, we've definitely seen that number 48 absolutely put on a masterclass here in the second of the two 75's given, or presented by Hermiston Raceway, I should say. Oh, wow, BJ Tidrick looks like he caught the wall there coming out of turn number 4, and he's going to lose a spot here to Caden Anderson. As that number 72 machine all of a sudden started to slide back through the field. Oh, here comes Caden Anderson underneath Hector Jr. here going off into turn number 3. That number 37 really starting to make some noise, like Caden did in the first of these two 75 lap races.
So it is still McKinney up front, but Caden Anderson, winner of that first race, making his way up, and he's bringing the 82 with him.
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting, though, battle for the second position. Oh, the 8 machine, Travis Barnes gets loose coming out of turn number 4. Jason Templeton in the 39 up into the second position, and Templeton starting to make some noise like he did in the B main. Remember, he was one of those B main transfer drivers, and all of a sudden now into the second position. This is where we found him about this point in the B main, up there in the top 3, and Templeton showing how it's done here at Rockingham Speedway as Travis Barnes all of a sudden starting to lose globs and globs of time. That's a technical term, as the number 22 of Kyle Lahr is starting to close in on the back bumper of Travis Barnes. And looking over the last 5 laps, Travis McKinney and Jason Templeton have been the 2 fastest race cars out on the racetrack. And I know that sounds silly because they're 1-2, but their average lap times backs up that statistic. So very, very good out of McKinney and Templeton.
Templeton pulling away now. Templeton 9/10 of a second back from McKinney, so about a second. Oh, and one car on its side on the driver's door. It's the 4 of Shane Quinn.
Yeah, an absolute ride for Shane Quinn. He was racing back there with BJ Tidrick, and Tidrick had been sliding his way back through the field and just coming together out of the corner. Not 100% sure what exactly happened there. I think it was just 2 race cars ending up in the same spot on the racetrack. We'll see what happened here. I think this is on board from the number 4 machine, just hooked it up into the wall, riding on its side. We'll have to see if the number 4 machine can continue on with this thing. I can say that the 72 got loose. And then there was some netcode, it appears. Possibly just a little bit of netcode between those two. And definitely, I think the 72 got loose, came down the racetrack a little bit. But we'll see how that all is played out.
Back under caution here at Rockingham. Closing stages of this one. McKinney has led the way, but you know this isn't helping his anxiety with the internet connections the longer this goes. And especially now with a much faster car closing in behind him with Templeton that had just done so good in the main, and just from then on it's just been really, really solid here all day. So
yeah, has been very, very quick all day. Caden Anderson, another one of those drivers who's been quick, now moved up into the top 5. Remember, Anderson got that win at Sobo, got the last week, got the win in the first A main here tonight, and trying to do the double. And doing the double would be very, very impressive because Caden Anderson started this race shotgun on the field, back in the 24th position. That number 37 machine's been fast, but laps are winding down here pretty quickly, Greg, as we only have 18 laps to go. We're probably going to have about a 16 or 15 lap shootout to the end once we go back to green flag racing.
All right, so interesting development here in this. Both BJ Tidrick and Shane Quinn were given EOL penalties in that one, so not sure if they both tapped or what was going on. BJ was given one first, and then Shane was given one later, and Shane actually said yes. That's all he said in the chat, but and Shane's saying, hey, there was some netcode going on too, but looks like both of them are getting the penalty there. So interesting development. I think that's the first time I've seen both drivers get a penalty.
Yeah, and it's an interesting thing. I was talking with the league organizer, Seth Frazier, earlier this season, and he says they're very, very strict about the tapping policy. And if it's a 50-50 racing incident, they kind of expect both drivers to tap because neither of them's at fault, but they are, kind of mutually at fault for the incident. So I thought that was a very interesting thing, and we've seen it here with both BJ Tidrick and Shane Quinn taking the tap. Now, neither of those drivers had tapped coming into this point in time, so both of those drivers able to stay out there on the racetrack as of now. But I'll tell you what, kind of like how in soccer you kind of have the yellow card thing, we have a lot of drivers right now on the racetrack with a single tap on their name here tonight. So kind of interesting to see that. And of course, then we possibly have a couple of incidents where the drivers didn't tap. So that will, of course, be reviewed after the race. There is a post-race investigation that does go on with the league administrators, and it'll be interesting to see how that is called. As you can see, your race leader there, Travis McKinney, still having some connection issues. He leads this race over Jason Templeton, Travis Barnes, Kyle Lahr, and Caden Anderson. Of course, Anderson trying to do the double. Kyle Lahr was your race winner back in the first race of the year at USA, trying to get yet another win on the season, at least a win in this second A main. But the pace car here about to dive down onto pit road. The field going around at 50 miles an hour. You see Travis McKinney up there near the wall. You see him giving just a little bit of breathing room in case that car jumps off to the right when he hits the loud pedal, but it doesn't this time. Good restart for the number 48, and also good restart for Jason Templeton. As you see all the field, contact in the back. Nick Bellamy in the 20 machine was
that was the 37 of Anderson. I think the 37 of Anderson also got a piece of that. Oh, it started up there with Lahr and Anderson. Anderson got the wall and the Bellamy. Formal there as well.
Yeah, so Caden Anderson, who was trying to do the double, is going to slide back into the 7th position here from 5th to 7th in one lap, and still under fire from now Ryan Gormley in the 44 machine. Gormley trying to work his way up forward, and remember, Gormley was able to get a top 3 in that first race here tonight. And so Gormley trying to come home. Remember, it's really the average of your 2 races tonight. So if Gormley can get a couple positions in front of the number 37, we could be seeing the 44 as tonight's race winner. BJ Tidrick in the 72 is on pit road, however. And Tidrick is going to fall one lap down. In fact, unable to find his pit box. There he goes. But very interesting things occurring all the way around this racetrack. Can't say that Gormley completed that pass over Anderson, so move Gormley up into 7th. Meanwhile, Jason Templeton trying his best to run down your race leader as we only have 12 laps to go.
Templeton knows he's seeing those from the 48 of McKinney, and he stops right now in that 39 car because he knows at any second that could result in something big going wrong with the 48 of McKinney. 10 laps to go now as McKinney trying to hang on.
Well, yeah,
11 laps to go.
Yeah, definitely the 48 machine, Travis McKinney, just hoping it holds together out there on the racetrack. His connection. Really, your top 6 or so have all spread out. The first battle is now between the 20 of Nick Bellamy and Ryan Gormley, but there is an absolute cluster of cars for that 6th spot. you find Bellamy, Gormley, Frazier, Caden Anderson, Sean Breitzman. In fact, look at Seth Frazier there trying to go around the high side. We saw that work a couple times in the first of these twin 75 lap races presented by Hermiston Raceway. Looks like Sean Breitzman in the 46 going to go down there on the inside. I'm surprised we haven't heard much of this 46 machine here tonight, but I'll tell you what, he just had luck go against him here tonight, and he's going to get his way up into the 9th position now, which is good, but definitely probably not the night he was hoping to have, as Kyle Lahr and Travis Barnes. Lahr, whoa! The 22 and the 8 might have made contact there, but Kyle Lahr will take the position and move up into 3rd.
Lahr gets the spot away from Barnes as we are in the final 10 lap of this race. And you mentioned him, the former winner in this series as well. Not the night he wanted for sure, but he's doing a good job salvaging what he can out of it in the 46 car, but still up at the front. It's McKinney, but look at this battle between Gormley and Anderson right now, and Bellamy up as well. 3-car battle in the turn number 1. Gormley slides up the track. Anderson there. Breitzman there as well. Hanging on in case something happens, and here he comes. He makes his move to the inside. Breitzman dives to the inside of Anderson, the race number 1 winner. Bellamy loves seeing this because he wants to drive away from this. Frazier to the outside in the 30. They go side by side. It's the 46 of Breitzman and the 37 of Anderson side by side as we wind it down here at Rockingham.
And that number 20 of Nick Bellamy's having a little bit of issues as well. Gormley gonna see if he can take advantage as this time by only 5 laps to go. Travis McKinney goes across the start-finish line. And I'll tell you what, that number 48 machine with clean air on that nose, pulling away from Jason Templeton last time by about a 10 quicker.
Breitzman and Anderson get together. That opens the door for Seth Frazier.
And this is what Gormley wants to see.
Yeah, because he can actually go after 20 of Bellamy now, knowing that these go into war. Gormley has nothing to worry about but that 20 car in front of him.
And look at Breitzman there, almost catching the wall coming out of turn number 4. Caden Anderson gonna dive underneath here, going off into turn number 1. So Anderson's saying, it not so fast, I'm gonna go back at you. And in fact, Anderson's got that position back from Breitzman. So move Anderson back up into 8th. This battle for the 8th position is very, very intense right now, as McKinney has checked out up at the front.
Checked out. 2nd place Templeton trying to get back there.
Yeah, still about a second between those two. Gormley and Bellamy, the best battle on the racetrack right now. That's still the battle for the 6th position. Got to give a hand to Nick Bellamy. Been a pretty quiet night out of that number 20 machine, but definitely doing what he needs to do to get a top 6 finish. Just running his line, keeping Gormley behind him, as we are now only down to 2 laps to go. These laps winding down ever so quickly. Travis McKinney coming out of turn number 4. White flag in the flagman's hand. 1 lap to go here in tonight's Twin 75's presented by Hermiston Raceway in the NorthWest Tour. Brought to you by Joe's Racing Products. And there he is. Travis McKinney about half a mile away from the checkered flag. That number 48 has put on an absolute clinic in race number 2. Coming out of turn number 4 for the final time. I'm sure he'll be glad to see these Hoosier tires in his rearview mirror because the checkered flag is his. Travis McKinney wins here, race number 2 at Rockingham. Travis Barnes comes home in 4th. Jason Templeton came home 2nd. Kyle Lahr came across the line 3rd. There was a little bit of live timing and scoring hiccup there. That's why things kind of got sorted around. Bart Hector comes home with the top 5. Nick Bellamy was able to hold on to that 6th position. Gormley finishes 7th. And Caden Anderson comes home in 8th. But 2 very, very good races here tonight, Greg. And that's something I've been noticing this year in the NorthWest Tour presented by Joe's Racing Products. These drivers know how to drive.
Guys love racing against each other, both on iRacing and in real life. And there it is. Travis McKinney holds on and gets the W.
Absolutely dominating run for that man right there as he burns it down here on the front straight. You see a couple of other finishers there alongside him, Jason Templeton and Kyle Lahr.
And he's going to park it in victory lane.
As
Till
you
the
do.
blinking continues, it's all a moot point now because Travis McKinney just picked up his first career win on the Northwest Tour. Long time coming for that 48 car.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to step away here for just a brief moment. We'll be right back with some interviews with your top 3 finishers here on 3 Wide TV. All right, everyone, welcome back to Rockingham Speedway, where we have wrapped up our 2 twin 75 lap races here tonight for the Northwest Tour presented by Joe's Racing Products. And let's see if we can dial up your third place finisher here tonight, driver of the number 22 machine, Kyle Lahr. Kyle Lahr, Peter Short here in 3 Wide TV booth. You got a copy?
Yeah, I got a copy.
Well, man, pretty crazy night. Of course, transferred in to the A mains from the B main with a pretty resounding victory then. But first A main didn't quite go your way. But this second one, you were pretty darn quick in that number 22 machine, able to come home with a third place finish. Tell us a little bit about your first A main and your second one as well.
Well, A main was going good until someone ran out of talent, and then second main, no one likes how I drive because I race you just like you race me, and a lot of people are complaining about it. So let's see if I actually finish third.
Well, definitely was a spectacle for the fans here to watch. As looks like a little bit of Rubbins racing out there, but that's what it's got to be to put on a show. It definitely was a good one. The racetrack, we've heard it from pretty much everyone here tonight that the racetrack was super, super slick. Do you like a slick race car?
Yeah, I like my car a little loose. I'd rather have it loose than tight. Then this is honestly my second race ever at the track, so I'm still pretty learning.
Yeah, of course, we've kind of made the transition over from the shorter racetracks over to this 1 mile speedway with a lot of banking on it. Do you find yourself liking the high banked racetracks, or are you kind of a flat track guy?
Honestly, I like high banked, flat tracks, any kind of tracks, honestly.
Oh, there you go. It's probably good to like them all anyway. Well, definitely a fantastic run for you tonight. You're trying to salvage that rough finish from the first race. Came into tonight as your points leader, but it's going to be a couple weeks until we get back to next round. How important is it for you to have a good start to your season?
Honestly, I don't even know anymore, to be honest, man.
Well, hopefully you can keep things up looking forward, but before we let you go, you got any shout-outs for us?
Ghost Racing Product, Hermiston Raceway for sponsoring this race, 3YTV for putting it on, the iRacing NorthWest Tour, my mom, dad, fiance, and everybody else that supports me.
All right. Well, Kyle, congratulations on your third place finish in the second of the 75 lap races, and hopefully we get to talk to you in a couple weeks' time.
Thanks, man. See you guys.
All right. Well, that is the number 22 machine of Kyle Lahr. And we will now get to talk to your second place finisher, Jason Templeton. Jason Templeton, Peter Short here in the 3YTV booth. You got a copy?
Yeah, I do.
Well, man, I'll tell you what. You transferred into the A mains from the B main with a very solid run there. But definitely you showed the same level of pace that you did in that B main in this second of two 75 lap races. Tell us a little bit about that second race for you.
Yeah, I just, with me starting up front, I was able to just be patient and make moves when I could. My driving line on this track was definitely a lot slower in the short run, but I could keep up with the guys in the long run. So I just felt if I could stay up front, I could stay up there the rest of the race.
Now, I just asked this question to Kyle Lahr. This racetrack was so greasy here tonight. We saw cars completely sideways all over the place. Are you one of those race car drivers that really enjoys having a loose race car?
Oh yeah, that's if you're not loose, you're not fast, and it definitely makes for some great racing.
Yeah, put on some great racing all night long. I mean, that some great finishes and some action that was just fantastic. It's definitely a testament to the show that you guys put on here in the NorthWest Tour presented by Joe's Racing Products. In a couple weeks' time, though, we go to Oxford Plains Speedway for the first annual NorthWest Oxford 200. What are your thoughts about Oxford Plains?
I'm actually completely in the dark right now. I don't have any seat time there yet, so I'm definitely going to be getting some practice in during the week.
Well, I'll give you a little bit of some heads-up knowledge. You turn left and you keep turning left. Essentially, the racetrack is almost a complete circle. So I hope you like turning left, because you probably won't be going straight all too much around that racetrack. It's a pretty interesting one again. But before we let you go, Jason, you got any shout-outs for us?
No, I don't. I just want to say thank you to Hermiston Super Oval. I know they sponsored this race, and those sponsors help our league out a lot and definitely put the NorthWest Tour on the map. So just want to say thank you to those guys.
Yeah, Hermiston Speedway supporting these twin 75s tonight, so pretty darn cool. Well, Jason, hopefully you can back up this run here tonight. A very, very solid run in that number 39 machine with a good run in a couple weeks' time at Oxford Plains.
All right, thank you, Peter.
All right, well, that is your second place finisher. That's number 39 of Jason Templeton. And now we get to talk to Travis McKinney, your race winner in the second of two 75 lap races. Travis McKinney, Peter Short here in the 3YTV booth. You got a copy?
I got you.
Well, man, the first race that you were looking for, but the second race pretty much went to pretty much the best script you could have found. Got up to the front early and put on a pretty dominating performance. Led 72 of the 75 laps, which around this joint is it's pretty telling, because this place is not an easy racetrack with the tire wear and just how greasy it was here today. Tell us a little bit about your race and how you were able to keep those tires underneath you to get that checkered flag.
I wasn't actually trying to push to the front that quickly. It just, the seas parted and away I went. And I mean, once I got out front, the long green flag run to start off, I kept watching the tracker, and I was just maintaining the lead and just trying to back the corners up, easy on the throttle, save the tires. But those restarts, oh man, I was sweating.
Yeah, just how greasy was it on those restarts? I mean, we'd seen some accidents happen on those restarts because of just how slippery it was once you put the power down, but you did a good job of it.
Yeah, I tried once to restart in second gear and blew the tires off of it, and it was bad enough there towards the end that I was spinning the tires in third gear on restarts.
Yeah, that is absolutely crazy. Rockingham Speedway is one of those racetracks that a lot of drivers really enjoy racing this track because it's a driver's racetrack. What are your thoughts about Rockingham? Is it one of your favorite racetracks? And then also looking forward in 2 weeks' time as we go to Oxford Plains, what are your thoughts about Oxford Plains?
I actually haven't ran too many laps here at Rockingham. It reminds me of a mixture of Dover and Darlington. But it is a very fun track if you can get spread out, get some room to race, and then start battling. This track is a nightmare in a pack because you have to drive the track and not the other cars. And when you're side by side, it's really easy to make a mistake and wad up the field. So Rockingham, it is a fun track to run on. Looking forward to next week at Oxford Plains. That is probably one that I've had circled on the calendar just because it's a tight little bull ring. The cars are wound up. I mean, you're bumper to bumper the whole way around, and it's just, you're turning all the time, and it's nonstop driving. I mean, I'm sure with the way our setups have been, there's going to be no time to relax at Oxford.
Yeah, I was telling Jason that you start turning at Oxford Plains and you don't stop turning left because it's pretty much a complete circle the way you run around that joint. It's a very flat racetrack. Should be a lot of fun. Kind of off that question, are you one of those race car drivers that enjoys a high banked racetrack, or do you prefer short flat tracks?
I actually prefer the flat tracks. Martinsville is one of my favorite tracks just because it's a driver's track. You really have to drive it, and Oxford kind of drives like Martinsville. You got to attack the corners, but you have to stay off those curbs. And Oxford it'll rip the airbox out of the front of these late models at Oxford if you hit those curves wrong.
Yeah, those curbs are absolutely killer, let me tell you. But nonetheless, Travis, congratulations on winning this second of 275s brought to you by Hermiston Raceway here tonight. Before we let you go, you got any shout-outs for us?
Yeah, I'd like to thank Hermiston Raceway for coming on board and sponsoring this race. I grew up racing at Hermiston, so I'm looking forward to next year and going back and running there. 3Y TV for all you guys do. I love going back and watching the broadcasts afterwards. Joe's Racing Products for our title sponsor this year. Seth, BJ, all the guys that come out here and play every Sunday night, gives us a good group of guys to race with. I mean, my season hasn't started off very good at all, but important I can start moving back up through the points.
Absolutely. Well, hopefully you can have a good run at Oxford Plains to continue with some momentum as the season progresses, Travis. But nonetheless, thanks for stopping by and congratulations on getting to Victory Lane.
All right, thanks, guys. Just wanted to give another shout out. Mike Wood, Race Designs. He's the one that puts up my cars. Barber HQ, and Tidrick's Quality Transmission. And this is actually my first win in the NorthWest Tour, so that's a plus too.
Yeah, definitely. Greg made a comment as well when you went to Victory Lane that it was your first one, so pretty darn cool. Congratulations, and we'll see you at Oxford.
All right, thanks, guys.
All right. Well, that does it for your interviews of your top three. We'll take you through your final finishing results here. Travis McKinney, we just talked to him, getting his first career win in the NorthWest Tour presented by Joe's Racing Products. Jason Templeton comes home a very solid second. Kyle Lahr, up-down night for him. Sounds like a little bit of controversy perhaps in that third place finish, but Kyle Lahr unofficially comes home third. Travis Barnes comes home in fourth in number 8 machine. Fantastic wheelman, that number 8 machine. Put on a show in both A-mains here tonight. Bart Hector Jr. comes home in 5th. Nick Bellamy 6th. Ryan Gormley 7th. Caden Anderson, who was the winner of the first 75-lap race here tonight, comes home 8th. Sean Breitzman will come home 9th. And Seth Frazier rounds out your top 10. The number 42 machine of Garrett Huffines will finish in the 11th position, followed by the 57 of Brian Lambert. Dylan Huffines comes home in lucky number 13. Andy Fuller 14th, Christopher Heim. 15th, Casey Tillman, who pretty much had everything out against him here tonight, finishes in 16th. Shane Quinn was on his side at one point in the race, comes home 17th. Chris Meringue in the 00 comes home 18th. BJ Tidrick, 19th. Casey Garber, 20th. Marquise Smith, Daniel Masters, Josh Childress, and rounding out your field, the number 80 of James Paulson. Well, an absolute crazy night here at Rockingham Speedway. We'll be back in 2 weeks' time for the Oxford Plains 200 here for the NorthWest Store presented by Joe's Racing Products. I want to give a shout out to Hermiston Raceway for sponsoring tonight's event, as well as all of the other sponsors here for the NorthWest Tour. They all do a fantastic job for the league, I'll tell you that much. And really make the league what it is. You know, really these iRacing leagues need a little bit of help, and so it's fantastic to see that these sponsors are able to jump on board, like Hermiston, like Joe's Racing Products, as well as some of the others. So definitely pretty darn cool. But for myself, Carlos Acosta, and Greg Rentz, we want to give a special shout out to our friends over at SimTV for our camera angles, as well as our friends over at OCR TV for these the graphics package that we're able to give you each and every week. But for all of us, we want to give each and every one of you watching a good night, and we'll see you in 2 weeks' time. See ya!